This is Ocean Robbins, and I am so excited that in 8 minutes we are going to begin the 2019 Food Revolution Summit. You're one of hundreds of thousands of people who are joining in this summit and who are taking a stand for healthy, ethical, sustainable food for all. We will start in about 7.5 minutes, but right now, thousands of people are already gathering. So I want to take this moment to welcome you, and I want to let you know if you care about food, if you care about health, if you want to prevent illness, if you want to thrive, you're in the right place. If you want a healthy body and a healthy world, you are in the right place. If you're interested in better sleep, more energy, healthier skin, better digestion, a stronger immune system, if you want to fight off or prevent Alzheimer's, cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, or any other health challenge, you're in the right place. If you want to come together with other people who care, who know that food matters, who want to be a part of the revolution, you are in the right place, and I am so glad you've found us. We'll be officially starting the Food Revolution Summit in about 6.5 minutes, and right now I am Ocean Robbins, welcoming you here. My dad and colleague John Robbins and I are often called the founders of the Food Revolution Network, but I'll tell you, I think the truth is we might more accurately be described as the foundees, because we were found and founded by this work. And in this summit, I hope that it finds you as well. I hope that it finds you, that it inspires you, that it galvanizes you, and that it helps you to bring your food choices into alignment with what it is you most want for your life and for your world. If you just joined us, we are going to be starting the 2019 Food Revolution Summit in just over 5 minutes. We will lead off with my dad and colleague, best-selling author John Robbins, interviewing Dr. Dean Ornish. And I'm Ocean Robbins, host of the Food Revolution Network and of the Food Revolution Summit. And I'm right now sharing a few welcoming words. You know, in the face of the tens of billions of dollars being spent by the junk food industry, in the face of the rampant spread of pesticides, herbicides, factory farms, and toxic food all around the world, in the face of the epidemic rates of obesity, diabetes, and cancer, and the climate crisis, and so many problems we face, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed. Many people are wondering if there's really any hope for the health of our people or for a sane food culture. And I am here to tell you right here and right now that we say yes. We say there is immense hope. We say that hope is not so much a noun as a verb. It's an action that we live from. And when it comes to food, you literally carry the keys to shaping your destiny. In this summit, you're going to find out how you can leverage the incredible power of food to create the life and the world that you want. We're going to begin the Food Revolution Summit in about 4 minutes with an incredible team of speakers. Today's topic is Thrive, how to harness the amazing power of food. In a few moments, you'll hear us on the line with Dr. Dean Ornish, speaking on 4 simple solutions you can use to reverse disease. At the top of the next hour, you'll hear from Dr. Christy Funk. And an hour after that, you'll hear from Dr. Michael Clapper. Each of these brilliant doctors is going to be interviewed via audio conference by my dad and colleague, best-selling author John Robbins. After each interview, if time allows, I'll be on the line to bring you my top takeaways and reflections, to share in questions and answers, and to give some bonus resources until the next interview starts. Before we begin with Dr. Dean Ornish in about 3.5 minutes, I want to say that right here and right now, you're part of a powerful convergence of people all over the planet from 180 countries who care, who are passionate about healthy food, and who are part of your food revolution. Let's make this a supportive and non-judgmental community. Let's make this a safe space for everybody to be exactly who and where they are, and to support each person in learning and growing. If you're brand new to the food revolution, welcome. If you've been in this revolution for decades, welcome. Remember, we're all in this together, and we're all lifting and changing the course of the world together. We'll be starting the Food Revolution Summit in just 3 minutes. I can hardly wait. Thousands of people have already gathered, and I want to invite you to go ahead and post an introduction of yourself in the comments thread on our broadcasts page. You can say hello, you can share something you're hoping to get out of this summit. Go ahead and press the button and refresh the comments in order to see the latest ones. Jamie Murphy said, I'm about to begin my third Food Revolution Summit. I look forward to this and truly believe it is the best thing I do for myself all year long. Lynn Mansion said, I'm still crying from joy because I got 2 emails this morning, one from PETA, one from Hay House, supporting your summit. My heart is full because the revolution is on and the world will change. You changed my life. Bless you. Well, welcome, Jamie, and welcome, Lynn. We are so glad you are here. Annie Ozer said, I'm looking forward to this, my first food summit. I feel strongly it is now time for me to awaken to a radical shift. I'm excited. Thank you for all the amazing work you do. Annie, welcome. Rick Burley said, I loved it so much last year. I'm sure this year will be exponentially even more exciting. And Mary Lou Corton said, I am excited for the summit to begin. So thankful that my friend has told me about this. Well, thank you, Ricky and Mary Lou and everybody else joining us right now. We are thrilled that you are here. We're going to give away a number of prizes today as we go along. And in the middle of the day, that will include a free premium Vitamix blender for one of the people who submits a comment. So be sure to post a comment and stay with us for your chance to win a free Vitamix blender. As each presentation unfolds, anytime you hear something you especially like, I want to invite you to go ahead and capture it in the comments so that other folks can see it as well. We will be starting the Food Revolution Summit with Dr. Dean Ornish in about 1 minute. Did you realize that only 1/3 of the medical schools in the United States have a single required course in nutrition? The average physician in all their years of medical school gets less than 19 hours of nutritional education, most of which just focuses on specific nutrients and none of which really talks about how to help patients be well. What would happen if we treated food like the foundation of health that it is? Well, in this summit, you're going to hear from doctors who do. And their insights are profound, and you're going to hear from 3 of them today. Genevieve said, happy to be part of this second for my 2nd year. I love, 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 and support this mission. It's the same mission I'm on. I know firsthand a simple change to food that loves you back can dramatically change your life. Yes, it can. And now it looks like it's time for us to get started. So we will begin with Dr. Dean Ornish in a moment. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. Dean Ornish. Dean Ornish, MD, is founder of the Preventive Medicine Research Institute, clinical professor of medicine at UCSF, and author of multiple best-selling books, including his latest, written with his partner, Ann Ornish, Undo It: How Simple Lifestyle Changes Can Reverse Most Chronic Diseases. Dr. Ornish's 40 years of research has scientifically proven that the lifestyle changes he recommends can improve heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and prostate cancer, and can lengthen telomeres, which begins to reverse aging on a cellular level. The Ornish program was the first lifestyle-based program to be covered in the history of Medicare. Dr. Ornish has been recognized by Life magazine as one of the 50 most influential members of his generation, and by Forbes as one of the 7 most powerful teachers in the world. My dad and I both consider Dr. Ornish to be a treasured friend, and he's one of the great leaders of our times. So now, Dean, we're so glad to have this time with you. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean, and thank you, Dean, for being with us once again. I'm honored to be here, and I feel like I should maybe quit now after such a nice introduction.
Well, it's well deserved. And Ocean referred to your program, the Dr. Ornish's program for reversing heart disease, being now covered by Medicare and Medicaid. And this is the first time that Medicare or Medicaid has ever provided coverage for a lifestyle medicine intervention to reverse heart disease. But it doesn't stop there because many commercial insurance companies now are also covering your program. And what's remarkable is that some of these are covering it not only for reversing heart disease, but also for reversing type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, elevated cholesterol levels. It's amazing to me how these same lifestyle changes that you've shown so convincingly can reverse heart disease can also reverse so many different chronic diseases.
Well, it's true, and I appreciate what you're saying. In the 90s, my colleagues and I at our nonprofit Preventive Medicine Research Institute trained about 53 hospitals and clinics around the country. Some of the most prestigious academic medical centers, community hospitals, and we got in all of them bigger changes in lifestyle, better clinical outcomes, bigger cost savings, better adherence than anyone had ever published before. But it was distressing because a number of the sites, a few of them anyway, closed down because we didn't have the insurance and Medicare reimbursement. And so the painful lesson for me was that it's not enough to have good science, it's not enough to have a good clinically effective program. Uh, as the rappers would say, it's all about the Benjamins, it's all about the reimbursement. And so we were going insurance company by insurance company, and several were covering it. But I realized that most people don't go into the insurance world because they're entrepreneurial or visionaries. So I thought, well, if Medicare would pay for it, then that would really be a game changer. And because I'd been working with both Bill Clinton when he was president and Newt Gingrich when he was Speaker of the House, even though our politics are very different, these are issues that really transcend politics. And they were both very supportive, and we had numerous members of the Senate, of the House, of all the major health organizations. But it still took us 16 years to get Medicare to do it. But they did, and always remain grateful to CMS for doing that. Because when you change reimbursement, it changes not only medical practice, but even medical education. And so now we've been doing the same thing, training hospitals and clinics and physician groups. And as you indicate, now that Medicare is covering it, most of the major insurance companies, Aetna is covering it in all 50 states, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield and others are covering it as well. And again, we're finding that it's working. We're one of the nice things about doing something for 40 years is that you can make a lot of mistakes along the way and learn a lot and grow in wisdom by doing that. And so, just by virtue of the fact that we've been doing it so long, we're getting these amazing health outcomes. But more importantly, we're really trying to create a whole new paradigm of healthcare rather than sick care.
Healthcare rather than sick care. That's a pivotal shift. Most of what modern medicine does, I think, would be more accurately called disease management. One of the many things I appreciate about your work, Dean, that you've been doing for so many years, is that you're leading the way to true healthcare. I mean, you're a pioneer in developing the field that's now being called lifestyle medicine. And lifestyle medicine goes beyond the proven power of a healthy lifestyle to prevent many diseases. Prevention is really important. But you're demonstrating that these simple yet powerful lifestyle changes can be a form of treatment, that they can reliably reverse diseases that otherwise often prove fatal. Now, you've conducted and you've published studies showing that the lifestyle changes you advocate are able to reverse, to undo, as you put it, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, depression, obesity, and many other chronic diseases. Now, in recent years, working with Dr. Peter Carroll, the chair of the Department of Urology at the University of California, San Francisco, you conducted the first randomized trial showing these same lifestyle changes could slow, stop, and even reverse the progression of early stage prostate cancer in men, and by extension, breast cancer in women. And you published that study with truly one of the great luminaries in understanding the human genome.
We published that with Craig Venter, who first decoded the human genome in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. We found over 500 genes were changed in only 3 months, upregulating or turning on the good genes and downregulating or turning off the genes that tend to cause all these chronic conditions. We then did a study with Elizabeth Blackburn where we found these same lifestyle changes could actually lengthen telomeres, the ends of our chromosomes that regulate how long we live. And when the Lancet published this, they sent out a press release worldwide and they called it reversing aging at a cellular level. And we just began a few months ago the first randomized trial to see if we could reverse the progression of men and women who have early stage Alzheimer's disease. And our preliminary data are very encouraging.
Well, that sounds fabulous. Can you tell us a little bit about your new book that you've written with your wife, Anne?
The new book that Anne and I wrote called Undo It is based on this new unifying theory that we're putting forth, which is that although as a doctor, I was trained to view all these different diseases as being very different from each other, that heart disease is different than prostate cancer or diabetes, for example. But the theory that we're putting forth is that they're really not different. They're really the same disease manifesting in different ways. And they all are manifestations of the same disordered underlying biological mechanisms, things like chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, changes in things we've talked about in gene expression and telomeres and angiogenesis and the microbiome and apoptosis and so on. And each one of these mechanisms, in turn, is affected by what we eat, how we respond to stress, how much exercise we get, and how much love and support we have. Or to reduce it to its essence, which is really what the book is designed to do, to eat well, move more, stress less, and love more. Boom, that's it. And the more diseases we study and the more underlying mechanisms we look at, the more evidence we have to show why these simple changes are so powerful and how quickly we can show improvements.
Well, most physicians today are still trained to think of heart disease and diabetes and prostate cancer and other chronic illnesses as being fundamentally different from each other. They entail different diagnostic categories. They're thought of as distinctly different diseases. They're treated by different specialists. It seems to me that one of the most important implications of your work is that it's suggesting that we should stop seeing chronic diseases as being fundamentally different from each other. Dean, should we begin instead to see them as diverse manifestations and expressions of similar underlying biological mechanisms, all of which are powerfully affected by the lifestyle choices we make every day?
Yes, that's really the theory in a nutshell. And it seems so obvious now, although to me, the best theories are one that people say, yeah, that's obvious, except no one said it before, So, and the reason why I think it's true is in part, I mean, look at 50 or 60 years ago in China and Japan, they had a fraction of these chronic diseases that we have in this country, but their genes have the same diversity that we have here. And so, but they were tending to have a fairly homogeneous whole foods, plant-based diet, and they tended to exercise. They had strong social ties. They had love and support. And when those got disrupted, and when they moved to this country and start to, or even in their country, start to eat like us and live like us, they all too often now die like us. And the incidence of those chronic diseases that we have here is now skyrocketing in those countries. And it's one of the reasons why you find the same what are called comorbidities. People generally have more than one of these diseases at the same time. Most people who have heart disease may also have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and so on, because they all travel along the same mechanisms. If you're talking about a targeted immunotherapy for pancreatic or melanoma, that's awesome. But for the vast majority of chronic diseases, they're all caused by these same mechanisms. And so we found that a whole foods plant-based diet that's naturally low in fat and sugar, various stress management techniques, including meditation and yoga, walking or whatever kind of aerobic and strength training and stretching exercises you do, and what we call psychosocial support or love and intimacy, that this same program in the 40 years we've been doing it, the more diseases we study, the more evidence we have published in all the leading peer-reviewed and medical and scientific journals that it works.
What continues to amaze me is that it seems like the more diseases you study and the more underlying biological mechanisms that you research, then the more scientific evidence you have to explain why these simple lifestyle changes are so powerful.
It's true. And sometimes the simplicity of it can actually be hard for people to really grok or understand. It's like, we think it has to be complicated and high tech and expensive to be powerful. And I guess our unique contribution has been to use these very high tech, expensive, state of the art scientific measures to prove how powerful these very simple and low tech and low cost and often ancient interventions can be.
You mentioned a moment ago that you've begun a randomized trial to see if your program can reverse the progression of early stage Alzheimer's disease, and that the results so far are encouraging. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think we're in a place with Alzheimer's disease similar to where we were with heart disease 40 years ago when I did my first study back in 1977. In other words, there's every reason to think it's going to work, but no one's really done it in a randomized trial. And we're working with the top people in these different disciplines. And we hope to show that, and by the way, it's personal for me because my mom died of Alzheimer's, who was a true genius. Got her master's degree in journalism when she was like 17 or 18 years old. When she got Alzheimer's, it was just so devastating to all of us to see such a brilliant mind just slowly degenerate. And so I have a personal interest in this as well. So we're taking men and women who have early Alzheimer's, randomly dividing them into two groups, putting half of them through this program and half of them not, and then comparing them. And then we'll cross over the control group and they'll get it too, and we'll compare them again. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but since there are no good drugs either for treating it or for preventing it, if we can show that we can actually reverse it, then clearly we'll be able to prevent it. And I think that'll give literally millions of people new hope and new choices. I think what distinguishes our work is that we always do good science on things before we recommend them. It's why Medicare decided to cover our program. Because to me, the whole point of science is to try to sort out what's true and what isn't, and what's real and what's not. And so everything that we've written about in our new book is, although it's written in a very simple way, has lots and lots of scientific references to support all the statements that we make.
It's a beautiful book. I've been reading it and enjoying it and being inspired by it. You wrote it with your wife, Anne. This is the first, I think, book of your many great books that is co-written with somebody, and this one is with your wife. What's that about for you? What's the meaning of that for you?
Well, on what level do you want to talk about that?
Whatever you want.
Well, I'll talk about it on several levels. First of all, Anne and I have been working together for over 20 years, and we've been married for, I don't know, much of that time anyway. She developed a whole learning management system for all of the training that we're doing for these Medicare-covered hospitals and clinics and physician groups. It's a brilliant combination of synthesizing all of our work into kind of 18 turnkey sessions, complete with video and PowerPoint and evidence and all of that, lecture notes and so on. And so when we did this book together, I thought, this is a chance for her to have her kind of coming out, for people to really see how amazing she is. But more than that, we really complement each other in ways that are synergistic, just kind of like you and Ocean do. I tend to be more the science, hardcore science part, whereas she has advanced training in yoga, meditation, and in healing of a number of different modalities. She was on the cover of Yoga Journal 10 years ago. And so she can bring I tend to say the why, and she tends to show the how. And it's a nice thing, and it worked out well. And we have different sections. So it's the publisher wanted us to kind of mush our voices together, but we wanted to have each one of us have our own distinctive voice. I think it works better that way. I'd be curious to know what you think. And it also was a really wonderful experience, except for the chapter on love where we had a big fight.
Really?
Well, mainly because I think I wanted to be a little more self-disclosing about, our personal life than she felt comfortable doing. But
yes.
It was not an angry fight. It was just more of a difference of opinion. But the irony was not lost on us, but it was actually a beautiful thing.
Well, I think the ability to have healthy disagreements and to work them through so you arrive at some kind of a step or process or decision or a way to proceed, that's better than either of you would have come up with on your own, is a sign of a healthy relationship.
It's true. It's true.
In the book, you talk about inflammation a lot, and inflammation is clearly chronic inflammation I'm talking about, not acute inflammation, which has a role in a lot of healing situations. But chronic inflammation underlies a lot of the chronic diseases of our times. Can you talk a little bit about the role of chronic inflammation in prostate cancer, in diabetes, in heart disease, in the many chronic illnesses that your program is so successful in reversing and in preventing.
Yeah, one of the underlying themes of the book is that the same mechanisms that we've evolved to help us survive in acute situations can actually be harmful or even lethal when they're chronically stimulated. The fight or flight response is an example of that. You know, if you're walking along in the jungle and a saber-toothed tiger jumps out at you, you want your arteries to constrict and you want your muscles to tense up to help give you more body armor. You want your blood to clot faster and your arteries to constrict so you don't bleed as quickly. You want your heart to go pounding and your eyes to dilate so you see better and so on. But then the danger is over. Either you kill the tiger eats you, or you run away. But one way or other, it's over. But in modern times, those mechanisms are so chronically activated that, for example, it's not just the arteries in your arms and legs that constrict; it's ones in your heart. It's not just blood clots that can form to, if you get bitten in your arm, but in your arteries of your heart or in your brain that can cause a heart attack or stroke. And the chronically tense muscles can cause, back pain and chronic other conditions like that. And the same is true of chronic inflammation, that we know that an unhealthy diet, particularly one that's high in animal protein and fat and refined carbs, as well as, not exercising and being under chronic stress and being isolated and depressed, each one of those can increase chronic inflammation. Whereas a healthy diet, moderate exercise, stress management, and love and intimacy will decrease it. So in the short run, inflammation is a really powerful way of your body healing itself when it's injured, whether it's through, an invasion of, bacteria or viruses, or whether it's through getting injured or whatever. And it allows infections and wounds to heal and toxins to be eliminated. But the same inflammation that can be healing in the short run can be deadly when it's chronically activated because, it's just another example of too much of a good thing.
When it's chronic, when it lasts for years, then inflammation plays an important role in the development of just about every major chronic disease, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, dementia, autoimmune diseases, cancer, and depression. Dean, what happens in our arteries when there's chronic inflammation?
In your arteries, chronic inflammation injures the lining of your arteries. It's kind of like if you imagine putting a Band-Aid on an injury and then putting another Band-Aid on top of that. And so over time, that can lead to blocked arteries or atherosclerosis. And it can also, inflammation makes those plaques unstable. So it's actually the 20 to 30% blockages that are more likely to cause a heart attack than the 90% ones, because by the time an artery is 90% clogged, it's fairly stable and it has a network of blood vessels called collaterals around it. But if you have a 20 or 30%, it's inflamed, and that can cause plaque hemorrhage, plaque rupture, what's called catastrophic progression, which is as bad as it sounds. It can go from 30% to 100% all at once. In your brain, chronic inflammation can lead to not only being depressed, but can lead to Alzheimer's disease through the buildup of what's called amyloid plaque and what are called tau or neurofibrillary tangles in your brain. It kind of short circuits the neurons and causes them to degenerate and not to be able to communicate with each other. In your joints, chronic inflammation can lead to arthritis. In your pancreas, it can lead to type 2 diabetes. Oncogenes that promote prostate and breast and colon cancer do so in part by causing inflammation at every stage in a cancer's growth. And so it's just one example of many of these things that cause all these different diseases. Chronic inflammation is one, overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, which causes the chronic stress we've talked about, changes in the microbiome and what's called oxidative stress and angiogenesis and gene expression, telomeres, immune function. Every one of these plays a role in these same variety of diseases, and every one of them is affected by all four of the eat well, move more, stress less, and love more.
Well, you just mentioned the microbiome, and I'm aware of a study that compared the microbiome of people eating a vegan diet, eating a vegetarian diet, and others eating a typical American diet, omnivorous American diet. And the researchers found that those who were eating a typical American diet had a higher proportion of those types of microbes that are associated with chronic inflammation and insulin resistance and cardiovascular disease. Now, we have over 100 trillion organisms growing inside our bodies, and this is what is now known as the microbiome. How do the lifestyle changes, and in particular, how does the diet that you advocate affect the microbiome?
Before I answer your question, I just want to comment that, uh, although I was trained as a doctor to view microbes as kind of the enemy, what we call the therapeutic armamentarium, kind of this whole language of warfare, that most of these organisms actually live in a symbiotic relationship with us. They're actually essential to our health, and they keep us healthy in lots of different ways. They're kind of like a coral reef where you have all these different life forms living together. They've co evolved with us over a period of thousands and thousands of years. And whether it's in your skin, mouth, nose, gut, genitals, they have a profound impact on our health for better and for worse. And as we've been talking about, what we eat, how we respond to stress, how much exercise, and how much love and support we have affect our microbiome and how dynamic these things are, how malleable it is. Your microbiome contains more than 100 times as many genes as we have in our own genes. And these genes can generate a variety of proteins. And these proteins act as switches. They can turn on and turn off different processes in our neurotransmitters and hormones for better and for worse. We found that in just 12 days when people went on our program, we haven't published this yet, there were significant changes in the microbiome from the getting away from the harmful ones to the ones that are healing. Even a single course of antibiotics can change your microbiome to such a large degree that it may take a year for it to kind of get back to normal if you don't make any big changes in your lifestyle.
Dean, as you describe the importance of the microbiome to our health and the fact that antibiotics can disrupt the microbiome, I'm also wanting to add that antibiotics have saved many lives, and when rightly used, they are among the miracles of Western medicine. But today, most of them are not being rightly used. More than 80% of the antibiotics made in the United States are not given to people suffering from bacterial infections or given to people to prevent bacterial infections. Instead, they're used as feed additives in factory farms. And today's industrial meat producers do this because it enables the animals to survive and to gain weight under the grotesquely cruel and filthy conditions in which these animals are forced to live in factory farms. I hate to say it, but people who eat modern meat today have misery on their menu because of the brutal and intensely inhumane conditions that are made possible in part by the use of hormones and other drugs and antibiotics.
And because of this, a lot of superbugs are beginning to emerge, which we don't even have good drugs for. It also is another good reason for eating a plant-based diet. And you, John, you and Ocean have written about this a lot. This is causing drug-resistant bacteria to emerge that can actually spread from animals to humans. And it's been, almost 500,000 people in the U.S. alone get sick every year by antibiotic-resistant foodborne bacteria. And also these antibiotic that we feed to animals these residues are often frequently found in the meat you buy at the grocery, which, further contributes to antibiotic resistance. Not to mention the fact that, as you both have written about it, takes 10 to 14 times more resources to make a pound of meat-based protein than plant-based protein. So it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. Like, what can I do as one person about global warming or, feeding the hungry? And what I'm learning is that what enables people to make sustainable changes in their diet and lifestyle is not fear, it's joy and pleasure and meaning. And when we connect the sense of what we eat to a sense of meaning and purpose, for example, if I say, okay, I'm choosing not to eat meat on this particular meal because it's going to free up resources to help the planet heal and it's going to free up resources to feed the hungry, then it imbues those choices with meaning. There's a wonderful film that James Cameron just came out with called Game Changers. He became a vegan, he and his wife Susie, about 8 or 9 years ago, mainly for environmental reasons. And then he felt so much better. He's now making avatars 2, 3, and 4 at the same time. I visited their set. It's amazing, how much energy he has. And he's in his mid 60s now. He decided to make a film to try to motivate people to get away from this idea that, vegans are wimps and you don't get enough protein and all that kind of stuff. And by focusing on elite athletes who became vegan and whose games elevated and they became world-class champions when they became vegan. Everyone from mixed martial artists to Olympians to NFL players and so on. And there's a great scene in there that I mentioned in the book that where he has these three elite athletes in their mid 20s probably, and they feed them a meat-based meal, and it was organic, grass-fed, beef or pork or chicken. And then they measured using a device on their penis at night how many erections they had and how hard they were. And then he repeated it the next day, the same guys, with a plant-based meal, one meal. And he found that they had 300 to 500% more frequent erections and 10 to 15% harder erections after the plant-based meal than the meat-based meal. And apparently they told me that the film crew became vegan after shooting that. And so it reframes the whole idea of making changes in diet and lifestyle, not to prevent something bad from happening years down the road, the fear approach, which is really not sustainable. But joy and pleasure and feeling good and love and meaning are the things that really make these changes sustainable. And so if you want to have hotter sex and a cooler planet, then eat more plant-based. That's a better message than you're going to die if you don't do that.
Well, hotter sex and a cooler planet is something we all desire and really need in order to thrive. But a lot of us were raised to believe that animal protein is superior to plant protein. It's the gold standard, we were told. It's the only truly complete protein, we were told. And some of us are still being told that. We do, on the other hand, have compelling evidence that animal protein dramatically increases the risk of premature death. There was one study very recently, over 6,000 people, middle-aged people, they were from 50 to 65 years of age. And the study found that those whose diets were high in animal protein had a 75% increase in overall mortality and a 400% increase in cancer deaths and a 500% increase in type 2 diabetes during the 18 years that the study was carried on. Now, you're familiar with that study.
Yeah, I cited it in my book.
Well, it seems that those whose diets were high in plant proteins substantially reduced their risk of premature death in every one of the categories that were being examined. And yet, many people today still believe that it's hard to get enough good protein on a plant-based diet. It seems to me that is one of the obstacles in our society to taking the steps that would give us hotter sex and a cooler planet.
Having been, as I mentioned before, a veteran of all these diet wars, this fat versus carb, and having debated Dr. Atkins and people like him so many times, where he was the low carb guy. So I ended up getting stuck with the low fat guy, and it's never been just about fat. It's not even just about fat and carbs. It's about animal protein, because there's more and more evidence showing that animal protein is really highly inflammatory. And inflammation, as we've been talking about, is one of the underlying mechanisms. But you're going to get plenty of protein on a plant-based diet. So if you have rice and beans, that's a complete protein. And it's no different from the protein that you find in an egg or a steak or anything else, but you're not getting the animal protein that's inflammatory and all the saturated fat and cholesterol and now antibiotics and stuff that they can cause you to get sick. And it used to be believed, Francis Moore Lappé and others, that you have to get them all in the same meal. And now we know that you don't have to get them, not even necessarily in the same day. Your body stores and recycles amino acids. So as long as you're getting a reasonably good variety of foods, including legumes and enough calories to maintain your weight, you'll get plenty of protein. All plants contain protein. So rice and beans or rice and tofu, barley and lentils, and some plant-based foods themselves are complete protein dense, like quinoa. And so it's really a prevailing myth that, you don't get enough protein on a plant-based diet. And in fact, most people get too much protein, which has its own set of problems in terms of inflammation and kidney disease and other things like that. And the related prevailing myth is that, you need meat to be strong. But again, as we've been talking about, the word's getting out among world-class athletes that eating a whole food plant-based diet actually makes you stronger. The world's strongest man is a plant-based diet. And remember, my spiritual teacher, Swami Satchidananda, used to like to he was an ecumenical teacher, and he used to like to make puns. And he'd say, people say, "What are you, a Hindu?" He'd say, "No, I'm an Undu," which is part of the reason why we call the book Undo It, as well as, of course, the Nike ad. But he'd always say, You don't think you're going to be strong enough on a plant-based diet? Go ask Mr. Elephant, because elephants, as you know, are plant-based and they're among the strongest creatures on the planet.
Or Mr. Gorilla.
Or Mr. Gorilla, or this guy named Patrick Bamumian, who's a vegan who broke the world record for the most carried weight that was carried by a human being when he hauled over 1,200 pounds, which is, over 10 yards across the stage, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, another very well-known bodybuilder, is featured in the Game Changers film. And he said, I know this world of bodybuilding very well, and I can tell you that I'm stronger now than I was when I was eating meat.
Well, back to inflammation for a moment. Does animal protein increase the production of blood chemicals that promote chronic inflammation?
Animal protein does increase chronic inflammation. There's switches called histones and non-histones and methylation that basically turn genes off and on. So these switches are proteins that do that, for better and for worse. And sirtuins are enzymes that wrap around your DNA, around these histone proteins, as a way of turning off the harmful genes. They're called sirtuins because it's an acronym for silencing information regulator. Think of them as anti-aging proteins. And so the more we go kind of drill into this, we begin to understand how the proteins in a plant-based diet tend to turn on the good genes and turn off the bad genes. And that's what we found in the study that we published with Craig Venter, where we found that over 500 genes were changed in just 3 months, turning on the good genes and turning off the bad genes, and particularly downregulating what are called the RAS oncogenes that promote prostate, breast, and colon cancer. But other studies have shown that Jeff Dusek did, for example, that meditation alone actually changes your genes. And that, they did a non-meditators, people taught to meditate for 8 weeks, and in more advanced meditators. And they found that same kind of dose response effect that you find with diet, that the more you meditate, the more it changes your genes, and likewise upregulates the good genes and turns off the bad genes. And so, we have to eat. It's just a question of what, because then it becomes like, okay, what am I going to eat? But meditation is something that's more optional. And so it's easy for people to say, I've got so much to do. Why do I want to just sit with my eyes closed and do nothing? How much good could that do? Well, when they learn that, hundreds of genes can be changed in 8 weeks just from meditating, or probably even shorter, they realize how powerful it is.
A lot of people today still believe that the only way to change your genes is to change your parents, which is, of course, impossible. But believing this way, many people think that if they have bad genes, there's nothing they can do about it. You mentioned earlier that your mom died of Alzheimer's. My mother did also. And there is a possibility that you and I carry the APOE4 gene that makes us more likely to have Alzheimer's. There's a possibility we don't. We don't know that unless we get tested. But whether or not we have that gene inclination, the lifestyles that we live, the food choices that we make, the way we practice our lives has an enormous impact on our likelihood of getting Alzheimer's, much greater impact, in fact, than that gene, if we have it, that inclines us more towards Alzheimer's. I think the role that genes play, while real and strong in some diseases like hemophilia, but for the vast majority of diseases, is actually more minor than we have thought. And the role that our lifestyle choices and the food that we eat plays is actually much, much more dramatic and powerful than we've realized.
Well, it's true. James Watson, who, the Watson and Crick, who famously decoded the structure of DNA for the first time and got the Nobel Prize for that, famously said that when he was one of the first people to get his genome sequenced, and said, I want to know everything except the ApoE4 gene, the one that increases the risk of Alzheimer's. He says, why would I want to know about something that I can't do anything about? That's why we're doing this research, because, I really know now from our own work and other people's work that our genes are a predisposition, but our genes are not our fate.
The genes are not our fate. James Watson thought there was nothing he could do about it if he had the APOE4 gene, but your work and the work of Dale Bredesen and others is showing us today that a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle can, in fact, prevent most cases of Alzheimer's. And in those few instances that can't be prevented, a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle can still delay the onset of the condition for 10 to 15 years, which is no small thing. Now, Dean, you've been working with former US President Bill Clinton for many years. And I seem to remember that one of his cardiologists said that Clinton's heart problems were entirely genetic and had nothing to do with what he was eating. When did you start working with Clinton?
I've been working with President Clinton since 1993 when Hillary asked me to train the chefs who cook for them at the White House and Camp David and Air Force One, and then later became one of his consulting physicians. And when his bypasses clogged up, one of his cardiologists held a press conference and said, "Oh, it's all in his genes. His diet and lifestyle had nothing to do with it." And having worked with him for many years, I knew it had everything to do with it. So I sent him President Clinton an email and I said, "Look, the friends that I value the most are the ones who tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. You need to know it's not all in your genes." And I say that not to blame you, but to empower you. Because if it were all in your genes, then you'd be a victim. And you're not a victim. You're one of the most powerful men on the planet. And I figured, well, either I'll never hear from him again, or maybe I was. So a few days later, we met, and he went on a plant-based diet, which he's been doing now for 9 years, and he hasn't changed it. He has fish once a week as a concession to what Hillary wanted him to do. But for the other 20 meals a week, he's eating plant-based, and he's doing great. And so I think it's really important, again, not to blame, but to empower. Not only my mom has Alzheimer's, but all of her siblings ended up with it. So I'm quite sure I have the gene, and someday I'll get around to testing it. But I do believe that, again, our genes are a predisposition, but our genes are not our fate. And what I'm finding, and I know you guys have found, and part of your life's work as well, is to show that this is the way to live a life that's really fun and erotic and sensual and pleasurable. And that when you choose not to do something that you otherwise could do, whether it's not eating certain foods, for example, you could say, well, I'm deprived, or you can say, well, I'm choosing not to do something because what I gain is so much more than what I give up. And quickly, because these underlying biological mechanisms are so dynamic, when you really make big changes in your lifestyle, as I write about in this book, you feel so much better so quickly. Then it reframes the reason for making these changes from fear of dying to joy of living.
In your program, depression scores are cut in half. There are a lot of people today suffering from depression and not having answers. The medications that are prescribed have side effects. They help a few people. They don't help everybody by any means. Your program, all the side effects are positive. What is it about the Ornish program, and in particular about the diet that you advocate, that is helpful to depression? Is it eating fruits and vegetables? Is it not eating the bad stuff, the sugar and the refined carbs and the processed meats and so forth? Do you have any sense of what it is in your program? I mean, I know it's the whole program, but for people who are depressed, they sometimes need just like one thing they can do to start themselves, one step they can take that will get them on a path that will, if it can cut their depression scores in half, hallelujah.
Yeah, well, it is actually the whole program, and each part of it plays an important role. And there's evidence to show that exercise can help with reduce depression, that social support and love reduce depression, that a plant-based diet reduces depression, that meditation and yoga reduce depression. But there's a synergy that it's more than just additive. There's a synergy that when you do all of these at the same time, and paradoxically, it may seem like it's easier just to do one thing, but it's actually sometimes easier to do all of them. And it's actually sometimes easier to make big changes than small ones, even though that's counterintuitive. Because if you just change a little bit, you get kind of the hassle and deprivation from not being able to do and eat everything you want, but you're not really making changes big enough to feel that much better. But if you start to meditate and exercise and spend more time with your friends and family and loved ones and eat healthier, most people find that their spirits lift. Again, because these mechanisms are so dynamic, you don't have to wait long to feel better. And telling somebody who's lonely and depressed that they're going to live longer if they just change their diet or quit smoking or meditate or whatever, they look at you and they say, "Excuse me, you don't get it. I don't know if I want to live longer. I might just do myself in. I'm just trying to get through the day." And I learned that not only from my own experience, but later when I was working with patients and we lived together for a month at a time in our earlier residential studies. And I'd say, teach me something. Why do you smoke? Why do you overeat? Why do you drink too much? Why do you work too hard? Why do you abuse substances? These behaviors seem so maladaptive to me. And they look at me, they go, they're not maladaptive. You don't get it. They're very adaptive. They help us deal with our loneliness, our depression, our pain. I've had patients say things like, I've got 20 friends in this pack of cigarettes and they're always there for me. Are you going to take away my 20 friends? What are you going to give me? Or food fills that void. A well-known food writer told me, or fat coats my nerves and numbs the pain, or we have an opioid epidemic now of numbing the pain, or alcohol or other drugs numb the pain, or video games, or surfing the web, or working all the time. We have lots of ways of dealing with that pain, but the overarching theme of all of the work that Ann and I have been doing is to ask a very simple question, which is, what is the cause? And if we can work at that level, then the healing can be so much more powerful.
Yes, and then the healing can be so much more powerful. One of the causes, I think, of the profound levels of illness in our society today, as well as the poor diet that's all around us, is the breakdown of our sense of community. There are a lot of lonely people out there, people who feel deeply disconnected from others. And when you feel that way, you're going to be more susceptible to drugs and alcohol and other addictions. That's one of the reasons we put on these summits, to help people connect with like-minded folks. Dean, what do you see happening in our social networks that might be contributing to the diseases of our times?
There's been a radical disruption in our social networks that we've talked about in our previous discussions that, 50 years ago, most people had an extended family they saw regularly, a neighborhood with 2 or 3 generations of people, a job that felt secure where you really got to know your coworkers who'd been there for, a decade or more, a church or synagogue or a club that you went to regularly. And many people, they don't have any of those. And virtual communities are not the same. If that's all they are, one of the studies I cite in our new book is that the more time you spend on Facebook, the more depressed you are. Why is that? Because it looks like it's not an authentic intimacy. Intimacy is all about connecting in an authentic and a real way. And when you grow up in a family with 2 or 3 generations of people, they don't just know your Facebook profile or your perfect life or your bio sketch and all those nice things you said about me when you introduced me at the beginning of the show. They know your demons and your darkness and where you messed up, and that they know, and they know that you know that they know, and they're still there for you. And there's something really primal about the human need we have for authentic connection with each other. Because you go on Facebook, it looks like everybody's got this perfect life but you, and that's not how it really is. Whereas in a support group that we have when we're working with people in our reversing heart disease and other programs, it's not about just helping people stay on the diet or types of running shoes. It's about creating a safe environment where people can let down their emotional defenses and talk openly and authentically about what's really going on in their lives, focusing on their feelings, because it's our feelings that really connect us. And it's incredibly meaningful. It's the part of our program that people know the least about, often apprehension about, and yet is invariably the most meaningful, because that, to me, anything that brings people together is healing. When you change your lifestyle, again, because these mechanisms are so dynamic, you feel so much better so quickly in the ways that are most meaningful. That's what makes it sustainable, along with the sense of meaning and the sense of pleasure that brings.
Well, Dean, you're a pioneer in this revolutionary field of lifestyle medicine, and you've shown and you've proven that using a healthy diet and these other simple lifestyle shifts can prevent and reverse not just heart disease, although that alone would be spectacular, but also type 2 diabetes, prostate cancer, high blood pressure, depression, weight gain, possibly Alzheimer's now, and a host of other chronic diseases. And I consider it a privilege to be your friend and colleague.
Me too.
Thank you. I have so much appreciation for what you've done, what you're doing, what you and Ann are doing now. And on behalf of Ocean and myself and everyone involved in the food revolution, I want to thank you for your outstanding work, your deep commitment to the healing of all of our lives and our world, and of course, for being with us today.
Well, right back to you both. And for all of you who are listening, deep appreciation. I hope this has been useful. And thank you for continuing to raise awareness in so many people and making such a meaningful difference in their lives as well as in ours. And much love to you both.
Oh, thank you, Dean. We've been talking here with Dr. Dean Ornish, founder of the Preventive Medicine Research Institute and author of 7 bestsellers, including the latest with his wife, Ann, Undo It, How Simple Lifestyle Changes Can Reverse Most Chronic Diseases. Dean, you're a world renowned leader in the movement for human health and also for human happiness. We're so grateful for the lives you're touching, for your science driven inquiry, and for the deep heart and the wisdom that imbues all you do. It's a privilege to be your friend and to be your colleague, and we thank you so much for your partnership and leadership in the food revolution.
God bless you both. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dr. Dean Ornish and to my dad for that inspiring, profound, and incredibly informative conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcasts page. Make sure to refresh the comments using the Get the Latest Comments button so you can see the most recent ones that have been shared. Our next presentation will be an interview with best-selling author Dr. Christy Funk on what everyone needs to know about breast cancer. It will start at the top of the hour, followed by Dr. Michael Clapper at the top of the next hour. We've been receiving a lot of wonderful comments from people responding to Dr. Ornish's presentation. Cindy Miller said, "So excited to hear Dr. Ornish. Changed my life." Yes, Cindy, he's changed a lot of people's lives. And a lot of people's lives are getting changed right here and right now as we learn from decades of study and research and experimentation and discovery. And the lessons are so profound. Susie Newbar said, "This is incredible, surreal. I remember when I was first diagnosed. I got one of your books from the library and thought the information couldn't be real. But now it's been over 20 years, and my journey has taken back to square one, and I know it's real. I'm on my way to getting well now for real. Thank you so much for this information." Susie, it sounds from what you're sharing like you had a diagnosis, maybe you took some steps, and now you've kind of taken some steps back, and now it's time to really apply it. And I just want to say that it can be challenging for a lot of folks to sustain what we learn for the long haul because we live in such a toxic food culture where all around us it's considered normal to eat foods that fuel disease. But right here and right now, we are creating a new momentum that is empowering so many of us to truly make food the foundation of health. And Susie, thank you for doing just that. We're with you every step of the way. Linda Chase said, My dad and I, as a support person, recently participated in Dr. Ornish's 9-week-long lifestyle program. We both have made lasting changes in our lifestyle that we enjoy and now have more energy and health. The 4 pillars guide all our daily actions. I hope more doctors get on board. Yes, Linda, we do too. This is so incredibly important. Today, we're hearing from 3 doctors who are on board and are leading the charge. And of course, we want to make food the foundation of health for everybody. We heard from Patty Bessie, who said, I didn't know there was a program covered by Medicare for heart disease and diabetes. My husband has these diseases along with many others. He's on 20 pills a day and has had a quadruple bypass surgery. This information is life-changing, and I can't wait to learn more. Well, Patty, we're so glad you're here. You are in the right place. And you can apply the principles that we are learning here anytime, any place, from anywhere. That said, if your husband does want to enroll in Dr. Ornish's program with guidance and a group of cohorts, you can go to ornish.com, click on Reversal Program, and click on Find Locations to see where it's being offered in hospitals or various establishments across the United States. Again, that's ornish.com, and then clicking on Reversal Program and clicking on Find Locations. Angela Julie said, I'm joining from Germany, where I want to start a food revolution too. Well, Angela, we want to help you do that. There are people from all over the world. We hear also from Ila Pathak, who said, I'm a nutritionist from Mumbai, India. I turned towards plant-based nutrition some 2 years back and have seen amazing effects on my own body. I want the food revolution to gain momentum in my country. And Yusuf Shakri said, I'm very glad to be joining this summit. I've only been exposed to the plant-based concept and impacts quite recently. and it made me extremely curious. I live in Egypt, and I would love to learn more about how I can bring the revolution to Egypt. Well, the beautiful thing, Angela and Ela and Yosef, is that this summit is virtual and you can participate from anywhere in the world as you are. So please, if you want to spread the revolution, share foodrevolutionsummit.org with as many people as possible so they can participate and join in this entire Food Revolution Summit with you. Dr. Ornish's work has changed, even saved, tens of thousands of lives. And every single one of those represents a human, a life, a family, a community even, that are impacted. One of the stories that has inspired me greatly is that of Dr. Robert Truehearst. When I heard it, I thought it was so moving that I knew I wanted to share it with you. So we're going to play it for you now. Here is Dr. Robert Truehearst's story in his own words.
My wife and I were having a very vigorous, full, robust life with working full-time and enjoying our kids and enjoying the environment that we're in, which is up in the mountains. And then one day on October 29th, 2015, we were both in a near-fatal head-on collision where a young man ran a light and hit us head-on. The estimated speed was 65, 75 miles an hour. Unfortunately, the next day, I had a cardiac arrest and quite literally passed away. But I heard my wife's voice calling me back. And I was able to will my consciousness back to her. And that's really when our journey started.
I found myself alone and caring for him until the heart transplant workup, where Dr. Boss came into the room and said, you know, there's one last thing that you could do.
My ejection fraction dropped to somewhere between 11 and 15%. Normal is generally considered to be over 50%. Mine was down to 11 to 15%, which made me unable to almost move or get out of bed or walk or do anything without some assistance. I was immediately dizzy, short of breath. My blood pressure would drop with every exertion.
And immediately I said, let's do it. This is, yes, it's a diet. Yes, it's lifestyle changes, but it's something that we can do. Let's give it a try. As my husband was just going, you know, it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work.
And I really didn't think it was going to work, and I heard that there was, you know, yoga and some other things, and a love and affection component, which frankly sounded corny at the time.
I would say within about 10 weeks, I started seeing incredible results.
To my astonishment, after a few weeks, the angina started to improve.
All of a sudden, his chest pain is getting less and less. We moved from down here in our home. He couldn't go up the stairs. We went back into our own bedroom, which was huge. He was going up the stairs. The weight started to come off.
So I would say, no matter what anyone tells you, it works. You can't argue with success.
And here we are today. My husband went from dead men walking to taking strolls on the street and taking our dog for a walk at 6,000 feet. I'm grateful.
We look at the before and after pictures of me, the pictures of me after the heart attack. As a physician, I've seen many dead people who look much better than I did. And it's not an exaggeration. I looked ashen and gray and washed out and cachectic at some points. And now, arguably, I feel as good as I ever had at any point in my life.
And as long as you truly love your spouse, you will do anything to make them better. Anything.
Easy.
Yes, you will. That just makes me cry. I don't know about you, but what a story. Um, and there are so many stories like this from Dr. Ornish's work and frankly from all of the speakers in this summit who are changing lives and changing the world. And I feel so grateful to be able to bring these stories to you because it matters. What we're learning here is, of course, about science and data and research, but it's also about humanity. It's about our very lives themselves. It's about our ability to sustain and thrive. And we do so not just for ourselves, but for our loved ones, because so many people depend on us. Susie Newbar said, I've been told my entire life that it's genetic. And now I'm learning it's all not true. Even my daughter has heart disease now, and she's only 23 and a dancer. This is so crazy. It upsets me that this information is so suppressed from the general public. I'm so thankful I found the food revolution. Well, Susie, I'm thankful you found the food revolution too, because I know you're going to learn a lot in this summit and that you're going to share it with your daughter as well. And it just got easier for you to sustain and share it all because you have just won a totally complimentary empowerment package. Our team is going to follow up with you. So now you can listen to and share the recordings of this summit anytime you like, and you will have the MP3s and the transcripts and the action checklists, plus more than $4,000 worth of bonuses from our speakers and partners. Congratulations. And for anybody who wins any prizes throughout this summit, feel free to write to ocean@foodrevolution.org or reply to any of the emails we send you, and our team can make sure to get you exactly what was promised, because otherwise we just follow up with you through the Facebook comments stream, which can be a little bit cumbersome. Anyway, Susie, congratulations. And we heard from Cheryl Kane, who said, I'm hoping to watch many of the summit interviews, but the reality is I know I'll miss some. That's why I bought the empowerment package. The added benefit of having transcripts is a big plus due to my hearing impairment. This is my second Food Revolution Summit, and I am ready. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for investing in our mission and in your health with the empowerment package. And everybody participating, whether you have any kind of hearing impairment or not, there is so much value in the transcripts because you can follow up later and catch everything you might have missed. And some of these details are important. And it's wonderful to own it all for life. And that way you don't have to scribble furiously and take notes because you have them all already taken for you. So that really is the most premium way to experience the summit. And that way you don't have to worry about missing anything because you own it for life. So if you want to get the empowerment package, just click on the link for the empowerment package and you can get it at any time. Ruth Roldan said, super excited to listen, learn, and grow. I'm 63 and have reversed being pre-diabetic. I found a plant-based physician as well. So thankful for those in the medical profession who are courageously paving a path, and empowering people towards attainable, sustainable health. Yes, indeed, Ruth. We are indeed so grateful for all of the leaders in this world who are changing the food culture and spreading the truth. And the next one we're going to hear from is Dr. Kristi Funk, who is one of the world's foremost breast health experts on the planet, for her interview on what everyone needs to know about breast cancer. Here we go. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I am joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. Kristi Funk. Kristi Funk, MD, is a board-certified breast cancer surgeon who's an expert in innovative and minimally invasive treatment protocols that work. She's the author of the bestseller Breasts, the Owner's Manual, and founder of Pink Lotus Breast Cancer Center. Pink Lotus fuses state-of-the-art screening, genetic testing, diagnosis, and treatment with preventive strategies and holistic care. Dr. Funk has helped countless women successfully navigate breast cancer, including well-known celebrities like Angelina Jolie and Sheryl Crow. Dr. Funk's research and work have led her to become a passionate advocate for healthy diet and lifestyle. She wants to keep you healthy and well and out of the operating room. So now, Kristi, My dad and I are so grateful for your work and for this time with you. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean. And thank you, Christy, for being with us today.
Thank you both. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you and to bring your message to our audience, who I know will benefit greatly from your wisdom and your caring. I've read your marvelous book, and in it you write that women make choices every day that bring them closer to breast cancer or move them further away from it, and that every woman has the power to reduce her breast cancer risk in achievable and dramatic ways, and this is all backed up by rigorous scientific research.
Absolutely.
And you cite specifically medical research that tells us that if women, before reaching menopause, get regular exercise, don't smoke, don't drink much, if any, alcohol, and importantly, choose a diet that shifts away from meat and dairy toward whole foods, plant-based eating, then their odds of getting breast cancer are slashed in half. And for older women, breast cancer risk drops by 80%. Christy, this strikes me as extremely important information for women to have. Can you elaborate?
Yes, this information to me is revelatory for the majority of women and all people on earth. And why is it so dramatic and shocking is simply down to this one fact. Most people believe that breast cancer is completely in the hands of genetics or fate. It's either going to happen or not. And the majority of people will say, oh, well, breast cancer doesn't run in my family, so I'm not at risk for that. And nothing could be farther from the truth. So in point of fact, only 5 to 10% of all breast cancer can be attributed to an inherited genetic mutation, such as BRCA or BRCA, which people are familiar with. There's a host of other gene mutations you can inherit. But altogether, all those mutations account for less than 10% of the breast cancer we see on Earth. In fact, if you look at all women diagnosed right now with breast cancer, 87% of them do not have a single first-degree relative with breast cancer. So if we can't blame our parents and our inherited genes, what can we look to as the cause of this epidemic that affects 1.7 million women every single year? And what I found through extensive research over my 2 decades of being a breast cancer surgeon now is that, as you said, John, we have control with every daily choice we make, predominantly and quite frankly, I think most easily through our diet and nutrition choices, but also through alcohol, exercise, obesity, hormone replacement therapy, emotional stress, and environmental toxicities. Those are the big boulders on the scales of life that tip you toward cancer or away, depending on the choices you make.
Well, it's a fact that some women who have very healthy lifestyles, who pretty much do all the things that you advocate, and who don't seem to be at heightened genetic risk, at least as far as we know, get breast cancer anyway in a few cases. And there are also other women who may smoke, they may eat poorly, they may live sedentary lives, they kind of may do everything that would seem to be counterindicated, and they don't get the disease. I realize these are the few, not the many, but they do exist.
That's true.
What do you say to people who use this fact as a justification for continuing to live in unhealthy ways and to eat less than healthy foods?
I would suggest that we look at the causation of breast cancer as a bell curve. So you've got this 5 to 10% at the one end that I said was attributable to genetic mutations. And then we go up and over our big bell. And on the other end, we've got another 10% or less that do everything in life right. They've been vegan since birth. They exercise like crazy. They are stress-free and zenned out. And yet it still happens to them and there's no mutation. And then on the flip side, like you said, we've got someone doing everything what we consider quote unquote wrong, and they live to 102. So these edges of the bell curve, if I gave you a gun that has spaces for 10 bullets and I load it with 8 bullets, would you pull it? Because those 8 bullets I can control through nutrition and exercise and paying attention to a healthful lifestyle. The other 2, the empty chambers, if you want to take a chance that you can explain yourself with those bullets, go ahead. But I'm focusing on the vast majority of women on planet Earth. Literally, if we eliminated 80% of all breast cancer on planet Earth, that would translate into tens of millions of women over the next 2 decades.
Which is an enormous advantage and benefit. And I think their health would improve in other ways as well. I mean, the same lifestyle choices that you advocate to reduce so dramatically breast cancer risk, do those same steps, those same principles, those same lifestyle actions have beneficial effects on women's health in other ways?
Undeniably, yes, yes, yes. So you have to think about what these lifestyle and dietary changes do inside your body are simply to alter the microenvironment, the literal fluids and cells that your own cells bathe in. So if that microenvironment is crying out anti-cancer, it's also crying out anti-inflammation and boosting immune system function. And so these lifestyle changes lead to not just a lack of breast cancer, it's a lack of all cancers, but also lower cholesterol, better triglycerides, perfect blood pressure, leading to fewer heart attacks, less Alzheimer's, you have less diabetes, your joints are painless, you have great bowel movements and clean lungs. So this really radically reduces, if not completely prevents, the major illnesses that lead to chronic, life-threatening disease.
Which is such a wonderful thing that the same steps, the same dietary choices, the same lifestyle principles affect so many systems in the body in such a positive way. And yet, as you make the point, one of the most dangerous falsehoods circulating in our society is that your diet doesn't impact breast health. And I've seen polls that show that only 23% of American women are aware that there are any dietary steps they can take to lower their chances of developing breast cancer. And among American women with less than a high school education, only 3% are aware that what they eat has any effect on their breast cancer risk. And if the idea that what we eat doesn't affect our odds of developing cancer is as widespread as it is, and it's completely bananas and wrong, as you say it is, then,
Right.
Christy, what's the truth? Just how important is what women eat to their breast health?
I think what women choose to eat is so inextricably tied to breast health that every single time a woman lifts fork to mouth, she should look at what is on that fork. Because she's not only affecting her breast health, but as we mentioned, all aspects of her health in terms of medical conditions, but also her emotional well-being and her availability for all of the people in her life whom she loves. Because food has that power to affect estrogen levels and growth factors and immune system function and inflammation, and all of these things combine and collide in our bodies, either for our benefit or to our detriment. And it kind of just makes intuitive sense once you say it out loud. What do you think your heart muscle cells or your brain cells are going to have at their disposal to use as fuel and to sustain a healthy cell cycle as these cells replicate throughout our lives, if not for the food we're putting in our mouths, chewing and swallowing, that then becomes nutrients that get absorbed into the bloodstream and then course throughout our bodies, nourishing and bathing these cells? What else are our body cells supposed to use except for the food we chew and swallow? They don't go to a store.
That's a great point. And when the food that we're eating is affecting our hormone balance, then it's going to affect our mood. It's going to affect whether we're depressed or upbeat, whether we are resilient emotionally or not, whether we're mentally clear or not. It's going to affect our ability to give to the people we love from a cup that's full rather than from a cup that's empty. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Yes. What's more, what we've found out through a scientific study is that not only are all of these hormonal levels and oxidative stress levels altered by what we're consuming, but the core genetic mutations that occur within a cancer cell start to crosstalk with hundreds of other genes inside our bodies, turning them on or off to suit that cancer cell's survival instincts. But when you eat healthfully, literally, the cancer cross-talking chatter gets turned down. In this one study by Dr. Dean Ornish looking at prostate cancers in humans, in men, he found that simply through diet and some healthy lifestyle interventions, such as stress reduction, that cross-talking chatter got turned down in over 450 bad genes and turned up in about 50 good ones. So food impacts the genetic circuitry inside your body. It's really quite phenomenal once you get into the science behind how nutrition affects cellular function.
Well, I appreciate your mentioning Dean's work. Dean is a close friend of mine and also a speaker in this summit, along with you. And his work with prostate cancer is really powerful, as has been his work with heart disease and other conditions. And he's shown that men who consume soy foods actually have less prostate cancer than men who don't. And there is a lot of controversy, though, surrounding soy foods, mostly due to the compounds in soy that can bind to certain estrogen receptors. There are some people who are concerned that even moderate amounts of soy could increase the risk of breast cancer or be harmful to women with breast cancer, and especially so if their cancer is estrogen receptor positive. Christy, this is an important topic, and there is a lot of confusion around it in the culture. Can you set the record straight about soy?
Oh, John, I'd love to. This is something that I'm very passionate to discuss, the consumption of soy. So when we talk about soy, we want to think about whole food soy in the form of fermented soys, like tempeh, miso, tamari sauce, natto, but also minimally processed soys in the form of whole bean soy milk, tofu, edamame. And these foods have been extensively studied in humans as they relate to breast cancer since 2009. So probably the majority of women out there, somewhere along the way in their lives, have been told that soy contains a high volume of plant-based estrogens, phytoestrogens, predominantly isoflavones in the form of genistein. And so we know 80% of all breast cancers are fed and fueled by estrogen. Who knows if your little estrogen receptor on a cancer cell is discriminating in taste and literally doesn't care about soy and only cares about your own ovary estrogen, right? So doctors uniformly just kind of knee-jerk response, spit that miso soup out of your mouth. There's no soy for you. It increases breast cancer, or so we thought. And I say we because I have to confess, I went into the voluminous amount of nutritional literature specifically to write the what to eat and what not to eat chapters in my Breast the Owner's Manual book. And I went in there to provide the scientific evidence to support my stance that you should spit the miso soup out of your mouth. I, sorry about that, ladies, for 18 years was telling all of my breast cancer patients to avoid soy because we just didn't know what it did in your body. Oops, embarrassingly wrong, I found out. So the reason why maybe this falsehood, this vilification of soy persisted for so long is that the studies were actually like 9 out of 10 pro soy, but every like 1 out of 10, you'd find like a mouse study where they were fed soy and grafted tumors would grow in the mouse or something. So it created enough confusion that people didn't know what to think. But since 2009, there have been 8 excellent human studies confirming that soy is not only safe to consume, it's beneficial. So on multiple fronts, if you consume even just 1.5 times a week, but I advocate for 2 to 3 servings of soy daily, you will decrease the first-time occurrence of breast cancer by about 60%. And if you yourself have a breast cancer, estrogen-driven or not, you will reduce that recurrence and breast-related death by about 32%. These numbers, interestingly, are absolutely identical. 60% reduction in cancer and a 32% reduction in death to the anti-estrogen drugs that we give cancer patients, namely aromatase inhibitors and tamoxifen. So that begets the intriguing question, does soy then act on the receptor status inside the body just like these drugs do? And the answer in all capital letters is yes, it's phenomenal and it's real. So the estrogen levels in your body go down when you consume soy. So there's less cancer fuel.
Do you find the scientific evidence, such as you've just given us about soy, to be enough to reassure the women in your practice? And are there women where it doesn't work? And what have you found to be helpful in terms of helping those women release the myths surrounding soy?
Well, I show them there are strong numbers in these studies. This isn't like a study of 12 women followed for 3 years. There was one study that looked at dietary intake of over 73,000 Chinese women and concluded that consuming soy during childhood and adolescence and adult life all protects against getting breast cancer. And then these cancer patient studies are really motivating to me to actually advocate actively for soy consumption, not just it's okay, don't worry if you're, eating out and have some edamame. No, actually order yourself a whole bowl of edamame. So the LACE study, which is Life After Cancer Epidemiologic Study, that looked at about 2,000 multi-ethnic survivors of estrogen-driven breast cancers who were taking tamoxifen, that anti-estrogen drug. They followed them over 6 years. And those who ate the most tofu and soy milk products had a 60% reduction in breast cancer recurrence compared to women who didn't really eat much soy. So the interesting thing about that study is it even dramatically reduced estrogen negative tumors, those that aren't fueled. So it's not all about this genistein isoflavone connection in soy. The isoflavones aren't just anti-estrogen, they're anti-proliferation, they're antioxidants, they're anti-inflammatory. It's one of the most healthful foods to fight against breast cancer that I've come across. That and broccoli, I would say. We'll get to that, I'm sure. I love broccoli.
Yes, we will. And I'd like to get to mushrooms. You were mentioning aromatase inhibitors.
Yes.
Mushrooms contain aromatase inhibitors and other estrogen-blocking compounds. And there's a lot of studies that indicate mushrooms to be potent anti-cancer foods for both men and women. And in men, they keep testosterone and the other androgens from being converted into estrogens by aromatase. And thus, they improve testosterone levels in older men, which many older men would appreciate.
Right.
Christy, if you were designing the ultimate anti-cancer diet, I know you'd include mushrooms. Would you include the common white button mushrooms or only the fancier and more expensive types like portobello and chanterelle and oyster mushrooms?
What a great question, because the answer is pretty shocking. It's actually that little old white button mushroom that has the highest estrogen blocking abilities of all the fancy mushrooms. So that aromatase enzyme is most effectively inhibited by the button. And you know what? You're thinking, well, I don't really like mushrooms that much. How much do I have to eat? It turns out that the equivalent of half of one button mushroom daily was enough to drop the breast cancer rates in Chinese women by 64% compared to age-matched no mushroom eaters. I mean, that's shocking, just a half a button mushroom. I will say mushrooms and tomatoes are the two foods that I advocate eating cooked instead of raw. Most vegetables, you get the most bang for your buck by eating them raw, and you get more of the phytonutrient awesomeness that way. Not so with mushrooms. They have a toxin, all mushrooms, fancy and not, have agarotine in them, which is a toxin that is quickly evaporated by even just 1 minute of cooking, stir frying, or otherwise heating. So always, which is shocking because the button mushroom is always sliced up and on every salad bar in town as raw, but it should be cooked.
It should be cooked. And now let's talk about broccoli.
Yay!
Your list of the 10 breast superfoods starts with cruciferous vegetables and leafy greens. And those are, of course, the veggies in the cabbage family, which includes broccoli and kale and collards and arugula and mustard greens and bok choy and quite a few others. And one of the reasons that these particular veggies, the veggies in this particular family, are so protective against cancer is the isothiocyanates that they contain. And the superstar of all the isothiocyanates is sulforaphane. Christy, what do people need to know about sulforaphane and about the anti-cancer power of the vegetables in the cabbage family?
We need to know two things. One is how powerful they really are, and then number two, how to maximize that power. So how powerful are these sulforaphanes, which are the superstars, as you said, of the isothiocyanate chemical released inside the entire cruciferous vegetable family, but king and chief among them would be broccoli, and second to that, actually, broccoli is chief. Second to broccoli sprouts, which contain 100 times the amount of sulforaphane as broccoli. But what do these things do in human beings, not just labs and not just petri dishes? It has been shown that sulforaphanes literally are able to seek out and destroy breast cancer cells. And they also contain these, the cruciferous vegetables contain indole-3 carbanols, which take excess estrogen and make you urinate it out of your body. So much so that a study that looked at about 52,000 African American women, followed them 12 years long, analyzing their food consumption, they found that cruciferous vegetables plummeted breast cancer rates by 41% among premenopausal women consuming about 6 servings a week. So a serving is about a half a cup worth of leafy greens or broccoli, not hard to consume 6 a week. The other part two to this was, how do you maximize this cancer killing capacity of the broccoli floret? The answer is you have to eat it lightly steamed or raw and chew it thoroughly because you want to break down the cell wall. There is an enzyme that needs to be released, myrosinase, for the isothiocyanate, the ITC, to then get transformed after mixing with some molecules in your saliva into sulforaphane. So if you cook your broccoli, you've destroyed the myrosinase enzyme and you can't then convert the ITC to the big daddy sulforaphane. But here, by the way, is a trick. If you're like, oh man, because I love roasted broccoli more than anything, and now I have to eat it raw. Well, you just need some of the enzyme, right? So what you could do is roast your broccoli, and then on your plate, mix in a couple of raw florets. So you're getting the enzyme that can break down the ITC that's in your roasted broccoli.
Could you also, as another alternative, if you don't like raw broccoli, mix in some raw arugula to the lightly steamed broccoli? Would that have the same effect?
Oh, I like that tip. Yes, it would have the same effect. So all of the whole family, the broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and then the kale, arugula, collards, bok choy, that's all in our cruciferous family. And they all have the enzyme.
Another of the top selections in your 10 breast superfoods are berries. And Christy, are there unique anti-cancer compounds in berries, such as wild blueberries and the common berries, blackberries, raspberries, and strawberries? And does it matter if they're fresh or frozen before they're eaten?
So there are compounds like ellagic acid, anthocyanidins, and proanthocyanidins that are also actually found in the skin of apples, predominantly red apple skins. But these berries have these compounds that sound like a biochemistry textbook. And what they do, though, in plain English, is they mess with cancer cell signals, that whole cross-talking thing. It quiets the bad ones, it amps up the good ones, and it actually kind of causes a cancer cell to kill itself. So cancer cell suicide is called apoptosis, and the compounds found in berries make cancer cells explode. They also do one more very important thing, and that is they inhibit angiogenesis. So angio, blood vessel, genesis, birth. The birth of new blood vessels is an number one requirement for cancer cells to bring the nutrients they need to proliferate and form a true mass. And then by doing this angiogenesis trick, they have literally created their exit strategy from wherever they are. For us, we're talking breast cancer. So in your breast, this tumor has created blood flow to it to feed it, and now it has its direct route out into the body where it can land in lung, liver, bone, or brain. Angiogenesis. Berries stop angiogenesis. You asked about fresh or frozen. Berries are so fabulous. Please eat them however you want. However, do know that whereas you kind of feel like maybe you destroy some of the nutritional value of food when you freeze it, not so with berries. Frozen berries more rapidly release the polyphenols that we just named by name into the bloodstream than fresh berries. So frozen is superior.
Frozen is superior. Well, it's also more convenient, and berries, of course, are very perishable when they're fresh. So the fact that freezing them doesn't detract from their nutritional excellence and fortification of our cells is a wonderful thing to know. Thank you for that. I want to ask you about another controversy. I want to ask you about coffee and cancer. Now, it appears to me from reading the literature that drinking a number of cups of coffee a day can significantly reduce the risk of breast cancer as well as other forms of cancer.
Right.
So you've seen that too.
I've seen those studies, yes.
Can you help us unravel the confusion around the coffee cancer connection?
Okay, let's take the women who enjoy a protective effect against breast cancer when consuming a surprisingly high number of cups. We're talking 5 cups a day. It achieves about a 59% reduction in estrogen negative cancers. And that's important to note because those are the most aggressive subtype of breast cancer that we have to treat, and we are the least successful with that one. So 59% reduction in estrogen negative cancers, a 37% drop in all postmenopausal cancers. And part of that reason would be that we know coffee is very rich in anti-cancer phenol compounds. Interestingly, for our listeners who are BRCA mutation carriers, one study found a shocking 69% cancer reduction in BRCA carriers who drank 6 cups of coffee a day.
You've mentioned several times the BRCA gene, the genetic situation that does increase risk for breast cancer, even though most of the cases of breast cancer have no obvious or apparent genetic component. But some do, and about 6 years ago, the actress Angelina Jolie focused public attention on breast cancer and on the genetic aspect of it when she wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, telling the world that because she carries a rare cancer-causing mutation, she had chosen to have a preventive double mastectomy, which she said dropped her odds of developing breast cancer from 87% to 5%, an enormous drop. And of course, you were her surgeon. What I want to ask you, Christy, first of all, is how rare is the mutation in BRCA1 that Angelina Jolie has? And secondly, how would a woman know whether she should undergo a genetic test to learn whether she carries a genetic mutation that substantially raises her risk?
Great question. So BRCA is across the board found in 1 out of every 3 to 800, but on average 500. So 1 in every 500 people. That includes men. And that's a very important thing to mention because men are largely unaware that they have breasts and that they can and do get breast cancer. But they are more unaware that they can carry this breast cancer and ovarian cancer related genetic mutation and hand that down then to their daughters. So 1 in 500 people carry a BRCA mutation. However, in the Ashkenazi Jewish population, so those from Eastern Europe, that jumps to 1 in 40 people. And those listening should consider genetic testing in themselves, not just for BRCA, but now for these whole genetic panels that we can test for up to 44 different genetic mutations, about 11 of which are directly associated with breast cancer. The rest of these mutations are other cancer-causing mutations. However, it used to be very prohibitive. It literally was, if you didn't meet strict insurance criteria, it cost $4,500 to find out. The cash costs, so you could also do it anonymously if you have insurance concerns is now down to $199. Or you could have it covered by insurance if you meet criteria. So what are the main criteria that really elevate the risk that you very well might carry a gene mutation? You want to think about your first, second, and third degree relatives on both mom and dad's sides. So that means that your dad's mom's brother, did he have pancreatic cancer? If so, take note. That matters. So you want to think about all these relatives and then listen to this list. If 2 or more relatives have had breast cancer prior to age 50 or ovarian cancer at any age, you should test. If you are Ashkenazi Jewish, you only need one of those. So 1 breast under 50 or 1 ovarian cancer plus being Ashkenazi, you should test. I personally think all Ashkenazi Jews should get tested irrespective of cancer in the family history. If you yourself have had breast cancer prior to age 50 or breast cancer in both breasts at some point in your life, or a subtype that we've talked about, triple negative or estrogen negative cancer prior to age 60, you should test. If there are any known genetic mutations in the bloodline, for sure, you want to test. And finally, if there's just a whole lot of cancer going on, breast, ovarian, prostate, colorectal, pancreatic, stomach, melanoma, these are all red flags that potentially you carry an inherited gene mutation.
Well, thank you for that. And I do want to also repeat something you said a moment ago, which is that I think it was 87% of women who are diagnosed with breast cancer don't have a single first-degree relative, that means a mother or a sister, with breast cancer who's had the disease.
Correct.
Even while we're talking about the genetic component, which does exist in some cases, and there's an intelligent way to deal with that, and I appreciate your help with that. We don't want to frighten people, and we want to remind them that what they eat really is important. And I say that because there is so much belief out there that it isn't when it comes to cancer, and we are constantly kind of fighting that myth.
John, you know what I was truly blown away by when I wrote the book, because honestly, we physicians, we have a lot on our doctor plates, not to mention that we also might go home and be, lovers and parents and children and of aging parents. We got a lot of hats we wear, but so it really does not set up well for your physician, once entrenched in his or her practice, to go home and open up nutrition journals, which, by the way, we did not get 1 minute of in medical school, which for me was 25 years ago and others even longer in practice. But even today, these students are not getting much of any true nutritional information. What that does to us, without saying a word, is it just makes us think nutrition doesn't matter, just like the surveys that you mentioned at the top of this conversation. People don't think it matters. Their doctors don't think it matters. But what's going to make a doctor then, who doesn't think nutrition matters because we weren't trained to think so, go home and instead of exercising or being with loved ones or doing one of 100 things, is going to pour through nutrition journals looking for pearls of wisdom that we don't even think are there, so that we can then go back to work and impart those pearls, probably for free, because there's no real reimbursement on the preventive front there. So it's interesting to me that that patients need to be their own advocates when it comes to understanding nutrition. But when I dove into this because of my book, I wanted everything I wrote to be backed in rigorous scientific fact and not my opinion. And number 2, I wanted the book to be bulletproof because I knew bullets might fly, and I wanted to have my facts referenced. There's 80 pages of over 1,500 studies cited. So when I went into the deep science, as we've already talked about, not only was I blown away by how clearly important nutrition is when it comes to health and illness, depending on what's in that nutrition, there's also a number of nutritional bullets that you can throw at these BRCA gene mutations. Now, I'm not convinced of their total power such that I would counsel a gene mutation carrier to, like, hey, just eat more soy, like we've already talked about, or hey, 6 cups of coffee a day, right? We've already mentioned in passing a couple of these things that shockingly reduce the breast cancer incidence in BRCA carriers, I wouldn't go 100% nutrition with a gene mutation carrier who's, say, 30 years old and has an up to 87% lifetime chance of getting breast cancer. I don't feel that confident yet that food can totally outdo a genetic mutation. But isn't that fascinating that literally foods can, in some circumstances, outwit where a cell is utterly handicapped by a gene mutation? And food comes to the rescue and can repair it. Phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. And as you were speaking about how little, really none, legitimate nutritional education you received in medical training, and that's true for virtually all the physicians in the country, I was wondering what originally led you to look at the role of diet and lifestyle in breast cancer risk?
So when I began my career in breast, I finished a breast cancer fellowship in 2002, and then I became the director of patient education at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and stayed there for 8 years until I opened the Pink Lotus Breast Center with my husband. So that was now 10 years ago. And as director of patient education, I would go out into the community and give lectures to some physicians, but a lot of patients and the community at large. And after a couple of lectures where there were just a few old ladies kind of half asleep in the background there for the free pens, I decided to step up my game a little bit. And I found that people weren't that interested in breast cancer. What is it? What are your different options for treating and curing it? Lumpectomy versus mastectomy. And while this is all incredibly important to a woman in the throes of decision-making because she was just diagnosed, someone who does not have breast cancer looming in the immediate presence doesn't really care to hear about it. But what they do love to hear about is actionable items. 3 cups of green tea a day drops breast cancer by 50%. Squeeze a little lemon in that, and you boost the antioxidant power by 5 times. Tips like that. I would have people sitting bolt upright in their seats, taking notes and going straight from me to the supermarket where they get cinnamon and all these foods I'm talking about. So I was starting to understand how powerful foods were because of that research. But again, even when I went home, I wasn't diving into trying to figure out every last morsel I could help people with in their daily choices until I wrote the book. And until I wrote the book, I have to tell you straight up, I was completely in a black box of ignorance when it came to how utterly detrimental and illness promoting the consumption of all animal protein and all animal fat is on a cellular level. And if I really thought about it, every single meal had some sprinkling of animal something. My healthy breakfast, non-fat Greek yogurt with some berries. My lunch, a big salad, but dumped on a bunch of feta cheese and maybe a salmon fillet. My dinner, which had whole grains and veggies, had a big chicken breast, boneless, skinless on the plate. Like every meal, right? I went into that literature and was so convinced by the rock solid evidence that the consumption of these animal products does everything to promote illness and nothing to promote health in terms of skyrocketing estrogen levels. And we've talked about it, right? The inflammation, the free radical formation, the oxidative stress, the big daddy battle that happens inside your body every single time you eat. And about 3 weeks into it, I have triplet sons. And at the time they were 8 years old. I went downstairs, I opened the fridge, and I stared at all the food and I said, boys, we're going vegan. And they were like, yeah, what is that?
What is that?
And I said, it's not eating any animals. We're going to eat tons and tons of plants. That was it. One day, one moment. And my 3 sons, my husband, and I have never eaten an animal product since.
And how is the health in your family as a result? How's it working?
Fantastic. I have more energy. I was always high energy, and now I have more. My skin looks really smooth and pretty. We're all really healthy. The kids are the last to fall in school when it comes to the common cold or the flu going around. And my husband, who is an Ironman athlete, amateur Ironman world ranked, his athleticism has increased in terms of capacity and speed.
That's terrific. I'm glad that's working for you all. There's something about the modern meat industry that I want to mention here. The industry uses hundreds of animal feed additives, and these include antibiotics and tranquilizers and pesticides and various animal drugs and even artificial flavors and industrial wastes and particularly growth-promoting hormones. They add these substances to the feed the animals eat, and they do that really with no concern about the carcinogenic or other toxic effects. And one of the feed additives that really concerns me when it comes to cancer risk is Zeranol. This is a synthetic estrogen, and it's so frequently given to both US and Canadian beef cattle to accelerate their growth that it's found in all conventional red meat that's eaten in the United States and Canada now. So, Christy, Zeranol can help a baby calf grow a lot. It'll gain 3/4 of a ton in 18 months. Do we know what effect Zeranol has on breast cancer risk and on other health concerns in humans?
We have strong evidence to suggest that it's nothing good. So Zeranol, as you said, is a potent estrogen mimicker. It is actually the most potent growth hormone found in human food and has 100,000 times the estrogen influence of BPA from plastics. So I always like to point that out to people who are like anti-water bottles with BPA in them, which is a good thing to be, don't get me wrong. But if they are walking around with their canteen of water or their glass water bottle and then eating a beef hamburger for lunch, they just don't know their facts. So let's talk about some of these facts. Zeranol in the lab, if you drip Zeranol onto benign human breast cells in a petri dish, they will turn into breast cancer cells in 21 days. And then you say, well, who cares, right? Who's dripping Zeranol on petri dishes, and does that impact anything? You bet it does. So this is what we know. It does get into our bodies. There was a study of it was 163 New Jersey girls, 9 and 10-year-old girls, and they tested their urine for Zeranol. 78.5% of those girls had Zeranol in their urine. 100% of them had eaten meat the night before. The ones without Zeranol had not. This is already known, though, by Europe. We tend to be in front of Europe in some things and way behind when it comes to toxicities in everything from food to cosmetics and household products. So let me tell you a quick story bringing us back to Italy, a little town in Italy in 1981 found that these boys and girls ages 3 to 10 suddenly just started sprouting breasts. And when they tried to figure out why, all of the signs pointed back to the Zeranol used in beef. And you mentioned this Zeranol is ubiquitous in all conventionally grown cattle. Is that significant? 94% of the beef we consume in America is conventional. So you bet only 6% is going to be organic and grass-fed. And you can also put Zeranol in grass-fed, by the way. The only sure bet to avoid Zeranol is organic, but I would suggest don't bother with the beef at all. Back to 1981, back to Italy, and these boys and girls with breasts, because they tracked it to Zeranol, the now European Union, back then the EEC, banned Zeranol and all other growth promoters, okay, because it's the US's trick to ban one thing and then just find a substitute and use that instead. They banned it from all of Europe, and then they cited the potential that this Zeranol causes cancer in human beings. So in 1989, the EEC, now EU, prohibited the import of all beef products from the United States and Canada. And that ban exists to this day because we refused to give up the Zeranol after it was shown in European studies to be a cancer promoter. There was one pretty telling study, the Nurses Health Study 2. They followed over 39,000 premenopausal women for 7 years and found that there was a 34% bump in estrogen positive premenopausal breast cancer for those who ate the most red meat during their high school years. So moms out there, I would keep conventional beef far away from your teenagers and your adolescents.
Yeah, for good reasons, very good reasons. There's another food that maybe we shouldn't be consuming as much of as we do, and that's alcohol. It is Is it a food? It's a source of calories. So in that sense, it is. And you've written that of all the controllable risk factors for breast cancer, none is more prevalent across diverse populations and cultures than alcohol. Christy, what is the role of alcohol in breast cancer risk?
If you have a drink a day, you increase breast cancer by 10%, 2 drinks a day, 30%, 3 drinks a day, 40%, and you can add 10% per drink thereafter. So what is it about alcohol that's so carcinogenic when it comes to the breast cell? Well, first of all, it increases estrogen levels, and we can by now know that that's just breast cancer fuel for 80% of all cancers. So it increases estrogen levels. It also impairs immune function. It creates toxic metabolites that are just directly toxic to the cells called acetaldehyde, which I hate to break it to you, even if you used alcohol as mouthwash, like put it right out, you have already formed acetaldehyde, which you're going to swallow down into your system. That's how quickly alcohol metabolizes into cancer-causing compounds. And perhaps one of the biggest reasons when it comes to the breast specifically, as evidenced in studies, is that alcohol inactivates this enzyme that converts folic acid into its most helpful form, methylfolate. So the safest amount of alcohol to consume if you are truly concerned about breast health is 0.
There's another topic I want to ask you about briefly. I've heard the claims, and initially they seemed plausible enough that I thought they might be true, that tight bras compress the lymphatic system of a woman's breast, which leads to toxins building up within the breast tissue, which damages the cells and increases breast cancer risk. Now, Christy, you're a breast surgeon with great expertise in the physiology and in the pathologies of the human breast. Do these claims that tight bras increase cancer risk have any grounding at all in breast anatomy or in breast physiology?
They absolutely do not. So they are smart sounding hypotheses in terms of blocking lymphatic fluids. And we know lymph fluid carries away toxins. So if they get blocked and they pool in the breast tissue, maybe they have a direct toxic effect. But it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And it doesn't matter if you wear an underwire either. There were theories that maybe that conducts electromagnetic fields that then alter the breast cell environment, but there's no grounding in anatomy or physiology to support any claim. So I always tell women, whatever you want to do in terms of support, you have my support.
That's sweet. You know, you run the Pink Lotus Foundation, which is the foundation associated with your practice, which is called the Pink Lotus Breast Center. And the Pink Lotus Foundation provides 100% free breast cancer screenings and diagnoses and treatment and support to low-income and uninsured or underinsured women, to those who otherwise might not be able to receive any care at all.
Right.
Christy, I don't actually have a question about this so much as a desire to acknowledge you for doing this.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's really tragic that a woman who's down on her luck and doesn't make much money, but makes enough money, by the way, that she can't afford emergency insurance coverage through Medicaid, right? You have to be below the poverty line. So if you're someone who makes $60,000 a year and you find yourself with a new breast cancer diagnosis and no health insurance, you make too much money to get the emergency Medicaid. And if there's not open enrollment happening at the time, you are stuck. Doing what? Selling your car, your house, taking out crazy loans? I mean, it's just madness. So the foundation supports women like that. And then we have a number of women who actually do meet the poverty line and don't have insurance, but they have maybe a free mammogram, because those mobile mammos abound, especially in October. So you can get one free mammogram, and guess what happens? If you have something seen on your mammo, it's red, and they'll say, there's something on your mammogram that you need to get checked out. Good luck with that. And that's the end of it. So now this woman has to figure out, well, it's going to cost about $2,000 to get more imaging, a biopsy, and then to find out if they have cancer. Then they can take that pathology report to the emergency insurance services, Medicaid, and get emergency insurance. But what does it cost to get that path report in hand? About $2,000. And this is the same woman who needed a free mammogram. She has to decide between groceries and gas or working up this lump that 9 times out of 10, by the way, is nothing. Not a lump, but an abnormal mammogram. So the foundation is here to stop all of that madness and really just inhumane treatment of women in a time of need. And I'm really proud of my husband who founded it.
Well, we appreciate the compassion, the caring, and the wisdom of what you're doing there very, very, very much. I know all of our listeners join me in thanking you for that.
Thank you.
Christy, you're probably best known as a surgeon, and I'm sure that being the surgeon for celebrities like Sheryl Crow and Angelina Jolie is partly responsible for that notoriety. But after reading your book and after speaking with you today, I have the impression that your ultimate mission as a physician really is to do everything you can to teach women about breast health and to help them take charge of their health and to understand what they can do to reduce their cancer risk. Is that accurate?
That is absolutely an accurate description of my passion. And in writing this book, Breast, the Owner's Manual, I came to truly feel that writing this book and putting my passion into words, my mission of education into words, and perfecting it, I'm sure I can even hone more pearls as decades go by. But right now, I had a false message until I wrote the book, as we've talked about, and dove into the real truth behind nutrition and its importance. Now I feel that writing this book was the reason I was born. I have an assignment in life. It is to preach this message that is found throughout the book about diet and lifestyle changes and how they impact all of health and specifically breast health, because that's my expertise. And I will not stop until this mission is complete. So the sooner every woman on earth would just read my book and do everything I write, then I can get a new assignment.
Not a lot of people know this, but the word doctor derives from a Latin word which means to teach. And you are, as well as a supremely accomplished surgeon, a true teacher. It's been a pleasure for me to speak with you today, Christy, and on behalf of Ocean and myself and everyone involved in the food revolution and everyone who eats, everyone who has breasts, everyone who lives on this earth today, I thank you for your outstanding work, your deep caring, and for being with us today.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Ocean.
We've been talking with Dr. Christy Funk, founder of the Pink Lotus Breast Center and author of the bestseller Breasts, an Owner's Manual. Christy, you are one of the most accomplished breast surgeons in the world. And here you are telling us how we can put a whole lot of surgeons out of business. And we want to thank you so much for your brilliant insights, your wise guidance, your eloquent passion, and your partnership in the food revolution.
It's my privilege to be a partner with you both.
Wow. Thank you so much to Dr. Christy Funk and to my dad for that brilliant conversation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, post and engage in the comments section on our broadcasts page. Make sure you refresh those comments using the Get the Latest Comments button so you can see the most recent ones that have been shared. Our next presentation will be an interview with Dr. Michael Clapper starting at the top of the hour in about 5 minutes. Carla Harris said, "What profound information. As a young woman that comes from a family of women with breast cancer, I've been a vegetarian for over 25 years and now a vegan for about 6 months. It's not as hard as I thought it would be. Thank you so much for this opportunity to educate about our health and diet. Food Revolution rocks." Well, Carla, thank you for being here and learning so much as you are. We are so glad to have you with us. And now we have a special surprise. For a lot of people, juicers and blenders become dust collectors, but I think we need to dust them off and put them to use. And what might be the strongest and most popular consumer level blender available is called the Vitamix. Vitamix is a company that's passionate about the food revolution with us, and to show their support, they're giving a free brand new black Vitamix Exploreon Series E310 with a 5-year warranty to one of our summit participants. Now, we've been receiving some fabulous comments. So many people are jumping in and sharing their experiences, their stories, their passions, their questions on the broadcast page. And our team has selected one of the comment posters to be the winner of this Vitamix. That winner is Donna Lockhart. Donna said, 2 years ago, I started to change my diet after being diagnosed with borderline type 2 diabetes. I took part in workshops with a nutritionist and lost 40 pounds and dropped my readings to weigh under any emergency. And I was able to lower my cholesterol medication. And I was not even doing plant-based or whole food eating. I still have inflammation, especially in my thumbs. 2 weeks ago, I started to eat less meat and integrate more salads, beans, etc. I'm also taking fresh turmeric and ginger, and I've already dropped an additional 5 pounds, and I've noticed a good amount of change in the pain in my hands. This is my first summit, and I will likely have to listen to the sessions after the fact because it's hard to fit it all in one day. Well, Donna, I'm sorry to hear about the health challenges you're facing, but I am so excited we get to give you a boost for the next step in your healing journey, because our team is going to follow up with you to get your mailing address so we can arrange your Vitamix delivery. Congratulations. Robin Kernut said, I've been cleaning up my diet for several years, removing refined sugar and processed foods to try to reduce chronic inflammation. I have meditated for 20 years, and for the last month I have not eaten meat because I've always felt it was cruel to animals. I switched to a plant-based diet, and I am so amazed by the results. I feel so much better. Less inflammation, more energy, and I am smarter. I can remember things like the names of people from the past without even trying. I feel fantastic, and it just gets better every day. Well, Robin, congratulations. We are celebrating with you, and we're so happy to hear your story. And I want to tell you about a great resource for battling inflammation even more, which is turmeric and also ginger, actually. They're both incredibly powerful in helping bring down inflammation. You can add them to your diet regularly. And our friends at Pura Thrive developed a product called Curcumin Gold that combines turmeric and ginger with liposomal delivery that enhances absorption rates by up to 500 times. And they're going to gift you with a 60-day supply. Congratulations. Our team is going to follow up with you. We heard from Lori Zorn, who said, my husband and I went plant-based 12 weeks ago. He lost 45 pounds. I lost 16. No exercise regimen. We went all in. We didn't start small. It all started when my 9-year-old was diagnosed with high cholesterol 3 months ago. We didn't want our poor innocent child to be affected by our poor food choices. We also don't want him to be on high cholesterol medication at the age of 9. We're all changing our diet. Well, Lori, bless you and your family. Congratulations on making this shift. It sounds like the whole family is in on this journey, and we want to celebrate you in that journey. So we're going to gift you and your family with an empowerment package so you can own the MP3s and the transcripts of the entire summit for life. Congratulations, and I know you will all put it to good use. And in a moment now, we are going to hear from Dr. Michael Klaper, who is a wildly popular physician. He's going to be talking with us on the topic of It's the Food, Keys to a Long, Healthy, and Happy Life. It looks like we're ready to go, so we'll begin now with Dr. Klaper. Welcome to the Food Revolution Summit, where we explore how you can heal your body and your world with food. This is Ocean Robbins, and I'm joined by my dad and colleague, John Robbins, in welcoming our guest, Dr. Michael Klaper. Dr. Klaper is a practitioner of preventive and nutritional medicine. He's been helping patients to heal for more than 4 decades. In 1988, shortly after the publication of my dad's first bestseller, Diet for a New America, Dr. Klaper moved to California to join forces with our family in working for more nutritious and sustainable foods. Together, Dr. Klaper joined with my dad in founding the nonprofit EarthSafe International. He has served as the director of the nonprofit Institute of Nutrition, Education, and Research, and as a member of the Nutrition Task Force of the American Medical Student Association. He is co-founder of Moving Medicine Forward, which is doing brilliant work to bring nutrition education into medical schools. He's the author of several books, a popular speaker, and one of the foremost experts on the planet today for how you can make food into medicine that helps you thrive. So now, Michael, my dad and I are so grateful for your beautiful work and to have the opportunity to share your brilliance in this summit. And now for the interview, I'm going to hand it over to my dad, John Robbins.
Well, thank you, Ocean, and thank you, Michael, for joining with us today.
It's wonderful to be here, John. To talk with you about anything is always a privilege, but when we talk about healing, it's a subject dear to my heart. I'm so glad we're sharing this with your listeners.
Well, I am too. And I've had the pleasure of knowing you and working with you now for more than 30 years. And as Ocean just mentioned, you've been a practicing physician for 40 years. One of the things about modern medicine today that strikes me is how many physicians don't like it. They're fed up with their profession. 3 years ago, in 2016, the Physicians Foundation's Survey of America's Physicians found that half of the country's MDs would not recommend a career in medicine to their children. Last year, in 2018, a similar survey found that figure had risen to 70%. Today, 70% of U.S. physicians would not want to see their children become MDs. What fascinates me about this, Michael, is this. Obviously, physicians today are deeply disenchanted with their profession and becoming more so with every passing year, and for reasons that I'm sure you understand all too well. But you, Michael, you seem to take great happiness from your work. Now, you practice a different kind of medicine than most MDs do. So what I want to ask you to begin our conversation is, what is it about your work as a physician that you find so rewarding and that gives you so much sense of satisfaction?
That's a very profound question, John. And as far as I can see, my colleagues are so unhappy because their patients really don't get better. Instead of curing diseases, which is why I went into medicine, and what gives me the greatest pleasure to see disease really be overcome. Now, instead of curing diseases, and every doctor likes to see that pneumonia go away and that skin abscess recede, but now it's turned into disease management. We don't cure diseases, we manage their high blood pressure, we manage their diabetes. And that's a particularly unsatisfying kind of medicine. And if you don't get to the root problem, you just see your patients week after week, month after month getting worse. Their obesity gets worse, their blood pressure gets worse, their diabetes gets worse. And that's a pretty dispiriting kind of medicine to practice. So I'm not surprised that the dissatisfaction rate is so high among my colleagues because they're not really getting to the root cause of their patient's problem. I work at that root cause level, and my patients transform themselves. And I'm privileged to see some of the most profound cures in all of medicine. So I'm the happiest doctor I know because my patients actually get healthier.
What kinds of conditions that people have that trouble them and bother them, kinds of illnesses, are most easily treated and successfully, most easily cured, to use the word you just used, by plant-strong nutrition, whole foods, plant-based nutrition?
Well, this is really remarkable, and this is getting to the heart of the new work that I've undertaken, in that the medical establishment has turned its mighty molecular gaze upon all the major diseases we face today. And whether it's diabetes, obesity, clogged arteries, high blood pressure, autoimmune diseases, inflammatory diseases. The pharmaceutical companies, the research labs take each one of these diseases and they drill down on a molecular level, and they're trying to fiddle with the molecular gears, designing antibodies that interfere with reactions, etc. And in this process, a couple of implications are made. First of all, that this is far too complex for any primary care doctor to understand, and certainly for the patient to understand. You just sit there while our research scientists come up with amoxicillin, and you'll take this new medicine and you'll be fine. And so this air of mystique and complexity descends over medical treatment. And then when the medical student or young doctor asks, well, what are the real causes of these diseases? Or you get these two words, etiology unknown, we don't know what causes it. And on a ultimate molecular level, I suppose that's true. There's always going to be more chemical reactions that we have more to learn about. But the reality is, if we click the microscope back a couple of notches here, we see the problem really isn't a mismatch of the patient's biochemistry. Now, that's just a manifestation of the underlying imbalance, and that comes down to three words. It's the food. It's what our patients are eating that bubbles through all the organ systems, which we'll talk about, sets off imbalances in all the tissues. And so the doctors see these various manifestations of a poor diet. The internist sees the clogged arteries, and the cardiologist sees the high blood pressure, and the endocrinologist sees the diabetes, and the gastroenterologist sees the colitis, and the dermatologist sees the psoriasis, and the rheumatologist going to see the sore joints, the autoimmune disease. They're all looking at the same disease as what their patients are eating. These are the major diseases, and essentially they're all caused by our current Western diet.
Well, it seems like every month there's new research published that validates what you're saying, that so many of the diseases that people are experiencing and suffering from today are caused in an underlying sense by the food they're eating. And we've normalized eating a very, very poor diet. I mean, most people, you look around, they think, well, I'm eating like everybody else does, maybe even a little bit better. My diet's better than most. But it's still not good enough to reverse disease. And in fact, it's still creating disease, though maybe a little bit less swiftly than the standard American diet. Last year, there was a very large-scale study of over 100,000 patients published by the Harvard School of Public Health. And the study found that those people who adopted just 5 simple, healthy lifestyle habits had an 82% lower risk for dying from cardiovascular disease, a 65% lower chance of dying from cancer, and a 74% lower risk of dying from all causes during the years of the study. What were the lifestyle habits that had such a major impact on all of these chronic diseases? Well, those people who maintained a healthy weight, didn't smoke, exercised an average of 30 minutes a day, didn't drink alcohol to excess, and most importantly, ate a diet rich in vegetables and fruits and seeds and legumes and other plant foods, lived an average of 12 to 14 years longer. It just keeps staggering me how powerful healthy, whole foods, plant-based nutrition is to prevent and reverse so many of the afflictions that people are experiencing.
It really is the most powerful medicine going. And one reason we're doing our work is to withhold this information from patients, because these are simple things that could be done, really is becoming unethical. It is such a powerful, transformative, I think it's by far the most powerful tool that any physician has in the armamentarium to really help their patients get healthy. And you see these remarkable transformations. You know, I've been a physician, as you said, for over 45 years, and I entered medicine in the late 1960s. And in those intervening 4.5 decades, the Western diet has changed, and we now accept as normal 3 times a day eating a meal centered on animal muscle, bacon and eggs for breakfast, cheeseburgers for lunch, chicken for dinner, ice cream for dessert. Every 4 or 5 hours, this wave of animal protein, animal fat, concentrated sugars, refined carbohydrates, all sorts of preservatives and flavorings, etc., washes through our tissues and sets off all these abnormal changes we can talk about. And yet we accept this as normal. It's like the classic, you can boil a frog, in water if you slowly raise the temperature. And the food industries have been expert. They've been artistic in culturing American taste and our food practices to consume their products. And as a result, we've created this remarkable disease complex, and yet it's a mystery to my colleagues about why our patients are suddenly showing these classic degenerative diseases. It's distressing to me that medical science, boy, we can identify a genetic mismatch on gene A21 on chromosome 14. Boy, we can identify that immediately. But the thought that cheeseburgers and pepperoni pizzas might be clogging up our patients' arteries, this somehow is too abstruse for my colleagues to understand. And it's a glaring oversight that really needs to be corrected. So indeed, I'm not surprised to learn the findings of this study, some very simple changes, and primarily adopting a plant-based diet makes all the difference in the world because these diseases are coming from our current animal-based, overly processed diet.
Well, there are probably some people listening to us right now, and they're thinking, well, it's too late for me. The damage is already done. I've been eating poorly or just haphazardly for a long time, and so I don't really want to give up the pleasures that remain for me of the foods that I like, even though I know they're bad for me. If it's not going to really make much difference to my health at this stage. I mean, so Michael, if someone has been eating poorly for his or her whole life, how much hope is there realistically for results from dietary change?
Oh, thank you, John. That question holds the key to so much. The body has such profound abilities in all our tissues to correct imbalances. The body doesn't want to be inflamed. It doesn't want to be distressed with high blood pressure and infections. It doesn't want to run these things. It's got other things to do with our energy. And when we when we stop hitting ourselves in the head with a hammer, the headaches go away. And when you stop upsetting your metabolism, stop setting off chronic inflammation, stop injuring your artery walls meal after meal after meal, and instead do what Hippocrates said, not only, let food, beer, medicine that everyone agrees with, but that second part of the phrase, and let medicine be thy food. I never did understand that until lately. What is he talking about? Swallowing pills for meals? What do you mean, like medicine be thy food? I understand now that if you do have a disease, if you have a body you've been abusing, then every good plant-based meal becomes medicine for you. Oh, that salad over there. Oh, that's medicine for my arteries. Oh, those steamed vegetables over there. Oh, that's medicine for my insulin receptors. That vegetable soup over there. Oh, that's going to heal my blood pressure. And let medicine be your food. Let every meal that you take into you start correct these imbalances. And it does. They do correct. And within weeks and certainly months, it's just stunning what happens. And I've seen in people in their 80s, the obesity starts to melt away. The arteries open up. The high blood pressure comes down. The joints stop hurting. The asthmatic lungs stop wheezing. The psoriatic skin clears up. The postnasal drip goes away. The migraine headaches clear. And people turn into normal, healthy beings that don't need a lot of pills and potions, if any. And again, it's an exciting kind of medicine, but this is the power of healing we each have in our bodies if we get out of our own way and stop making ourselves toxic with every meal and instead adopt a food stream that heals and unleashes these healing forces within us. Nobody should count themselves out. In fact, stand back and watch what your body can do if you give it the right fuel. It's really nothing short of dramatic, if not bordering on miraculous. So Please, thank you for pointing this out. Anyone who's listening, no, I don't care how obese you are, how clogged up you are, how inflamed you are, start running a healthy plant-based food stream through your tissues and watch, be prepared, be amazed at how much your body can recover, function, and relieve yourself of pain and distress.
You know, you're giving us an understanding of our bodies as capable of healing at every level, at any stage. A lot of us have absorbed the idea that our bodies are machines that break down over time. They just deteriorate. It's one thing, then the next, then the next, and then you die. The possibility that we can live along many years that are filled with health, that our later years don't have to be ones of feebleness and dementia and deterioration, that possibility doesn't get a lot of play in our culture. Most of us think of aging as something we want to fight against, rather than an opportunity to mature and grow and develop in joy and beauty. What would you say are the keys, not just to living a long life, but to living a life with an extended health span? In other words, a life in which one's later years are filled with functions that work and capacities for joy and pleasure and creativity and service.
Oh, my friend, you certainly have put your finger on some important concept. I love the concept of what's your health span? You know, how long are you able to function joyfully in your body? That's what really matters. Not how many years you have, but how well and how functional and how happy and comfortable are you in that body during those years? And that's your health span, which you want to have as long as possible. What are my tips for doing this? It's something we should teach our children, certainly teach our young doctors, and it has to it has to do with respect for natural law. You and I both enjoy being out in the outdoors, and we see the beauty of nature and how beautiful and consistent her laws are. Water always flows downhill. The warm air rises. All these natural laws that are predictable and harmonious. Well, the same comes to our body. And these diseases that we have, they don't just happen. The body is not capricious. It doesn't decide, well, I think I'll brew up an autoimmune disease today. I think I'll brew up an infection today. The body doesn't do that. It doesn't want to be diseased or imbalanced. It wants to be healthy and functional. It's us, the owners of the body, that imbalance the equilibrium of health by our diet, our lifestyle, not enough sleep, too much worry, cigarettes, all these things will unbalance us and set off the disease process. So a lot of it starts with obeying natural law. What does that mean? Well, if you believe in evolution at all, and you look in the mirror, we clearly have evolved on this planet through those simian line, through the line of the great apes. And the truth is, looking at our bodies and our fingers and our teeth, we have the same digestive system that our gorilla and bonobo cousins have, and they're up in the trees today eating leaves and fruits. And we need to honor that. Our digestive system is made for digesting whole plant materials. That's who we are. When we do that, like the gorillas, we pass these big soft stools. But gorillas out in the wild, they don't develop clogged arteries. They don't develop autoimmune diseases. They live long, healthy, natural lives. And as long as we run our body on a fuel of whole plant foods, our digestive system stays healthy, our microbiome stays healthy. There's no reason our blood pressure should go up. There's no reason our insulin receptors should clog, giving us diabetes. There's no reason we should become inflamed. So it starts with, again, the food is the food is the food. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you're doing other things that are clearly stressing your system, if you're trying to run on 3 hours sleep a night, if you're in a high pressure job or a very unhappy relationship and you're doing all sorts of drugs and you're smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol, well, of course, those are going to introduce more unbalancing factors. And you have to have an honest look at your life. But it starts with, what are you going to have for lunch today? What are you going to have for dinner tonight? What are you going to be running through your tissues on a daily basis? Now, if I can go just a little longer with this answer, people need to realize that within minutes of eating anything, molecules of that food are flowing through every cell in your body where your DNA lies unfolded. And the food you eat, the molecules in that last morsel flow through your cells and they wash across your DNA and they play your DNA like a piano. And they turn genes on, they turn genes off. They induce enzymes, they shut enzymes down. Every meal changes us on a genetic molecular level. Food brings in not only nutrients, brings in information, and it changes who we are. And that's what we need to understand, that the leg of fried chicken is going to turn on a whole different set of genes than that plate of steamed kale. And they have fundamentally different effects in our body. We are meant to have those kale nutrients, not the fried chicken ones. And that's where the choice between health or disease happens. And so start with that food, and everything gets better from there. And honor our anatomy. We are supposed to be plant-eating creatures. And if you stick in that ball field, you're going to do just great.
As you're talking about foods bringing in information that then basically goes into every cell of our body and our minds, I'm thinking how I don't want to eat junk food. And one of the reasons for that, even if it's tasty, is that I don't want to think junk thoughts. And Michael, do you see a correlation between people's moods, people's sense of joy, resilience, and happiness in their lives, and the food they're eating?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all know, there's been in the nutritional lore, chocolate makes you happy and all that kind of stuff. And people have been talking about the biochemistry of food and how it affects our brain for quite some time. But what has really come into focus in the last few years is a very direct link, namely, the food we eat determines the microbes that live in our gut. These trillions of organisms in our intestinal tract and our colon, our microbiome, is directly determined by the food we eat. You eat a bunch of sugar, you're going to summon up sugar-eating microbes. You eat a bunch of animal flesh, you're going to summon up carnitine-eating microbes. And the sugar-eating and carnitine-eating microbes, they are not friendly fellas, and they do everything from not only injuring the gut wall and setting people up for inflammatory and autoimmune diseases, but these microbes in our gut and our microbiome, they are not passive bystanders. They are actively metabolizing the food we eat and releasing byproducts. And these byproduct molecules have names like norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin. These are neurotransmitters. And they find their way back up into our brain, either through our circulation, the lymphatic system, the vagus nerve. There's various ways that the gut-brain connection can create various effects. But there's no question that the food we eat changes our microbes, and they in turn change us, and they can summon up food cravings. They can certainly change our emotions. And through this lens, we can now see everything from autistic kids to people who have just a sudden onset of depression. Instead of saying, you have a biochemical imbalance, my question to that person who said, Doc, I feel like jumping off a bridge, my question, what have you been eating these last few months? And if it's all full of sugar and junk food, well, that's a place to start. Maybe that's why he's feeling so depressed, from the microbes he's summoned up and their effect on their chemistry, on their brain chemistry. So absolutely, we are now understanding there's a powerful connection between what we eat and our emotional and mental states, without question.
The amount of sugar that people are eating, added sugars, is, we all know, it's way too much. And I saw a major study recently that really drove that home for me. And it linked the increased consumption of sugar with increased rates of diabetes by examining the data on sugar availability and the rate of diabetes in 175 countries over the past decade. And after accounting for many factors, the researchers found that increased sugar in a population's food supply was linked to higher diabetes rates. And that might not be surprising, but they found that the link was independent of rates of obesity. In other words, according to this study, it's not just obesity that can cause diabetes. Sugar can cause it too, irrespective of obesity levels. And the study controlled for poverty, urbanization, aging, obesity, and physical activity. It controlled for other foods and total calories. In short, it controlled for just about everything controllable. Now, one of the study's authors is Rob Lustig. He's a pediatric endocrinologist at the University of California, San Francisco, and he's spoken in our summits before. And he said, you could not enact a real-world study that would be more conclusive than this one. He said the study demonstrates that the toxicity of sugar is now known with the same level of confidence that linked cigarettes and lung cancer in the 1960s. Michael, do you agree with his conclusion that the levels of added sugar we have in our food supply today are toxic?
I certainly agree with his final conclusion. The amount of sugars we are consuming is toxic. Sugar is a flavoring. It should not be eaten as a food. When we are eating a candy bar or a donut, we are eating a chunk of sugar. And again, this was never meant to be eaten as a food. And when you eat that much of it, drink it in a soft drink, it floods through your tissues and causes chaos on all sorts of levels. The sugar molecules stick to proteins. It's called glycosylation. You glycosylate your proteins, and that injures them and makes them stiff, and it injures your artery wall proteins and sets you up for atherosclerotic plaque formation. It injures the glycosylates the proteins in your skin, sets you up for wrinkles and skin cancers. This is an unnatural substance to be consuming as a food. And so I totally agree that it is a toxic substance when eaten in the amounts that we do. A half a teaspoon of maple syrup in your tea is not a problem. That's using it as a flavoring. But again, eating it as a food and cakes and baked goods and candies, etc., that's a toxic practice. Eat real food like it grew out of the ground, not came out of a food processing plant. So absolutely, I agree with that case. We really have to back off of the sugar eating. Eat potatoes, not potato chips. Eat corn on the cob, not corn chips. Eat food like it was growing in the garden, and you'll be fine. It's these processed foods that are doing us harm.
Well, a lot of people today know they need to back off on the sugar consumption levels, and they are wondering, how to do that effectively. And we have an old saying that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Today, a lot of people are avoiding apples and other fruits because they're high in natural sugars. Now, everyone needs to honor their unique biochemical individuality, their unique metabolic individuality. But does the data show that the amount of sugars naturally found in fruits like apples are a reason for most of us to avoid or minimize eating these fruits?
Oh, thank you not only for that question, but the exactly appropriate way you phrase that question. Is the sugars as naturally found in fruit problematic? The answer, a resounding no, it's not problematic. That's why you ought to be eating it. And there's absolutely zero danger in eating an apple. And there's a lot of good things, a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber come from it. And so when fruit sugar comes in its natural whole form inside the whole fruit, I mean, how many apples can you eat? 10, 12? The amount of fruit sugar in those 12 apples is tiny because it's mostly fiber and water you're eating. You're filling your belly up with water and apple fiber. There's darn little actual fructose in there. And certainly it gets absorbed very slowly. Your liver can handle it. There's absolutely no reason to not eat fruit in its whole form. Should you be a complete fruitarian and eat 10 pounds of grapes every day? That's probably, that's a bit excessive. But as far as if you're eating a plant-based diet with lots of whole grains and legumes and steamed veggies, etc., you should absolutely feel fine about having as much whole fruit as you would like. But once you start processing it, once you squeeze the juices out or isolate the fructose sugar, and you add it into fruit juices and candies and baked goods, etc., these concentrated bolts of fructose, that's hard on your liver. That's not a natural thing. But as long as it's in this whole plant form, I see no reason to restrict your intake of whole fruits.
Well, thank you for that answer. That I'm sure a lot of our listeners will feel relieved. I want to shift gears and talk with you about a topic that is on, I think, everybody's minds one way or the other today. Some of us are frightened by it. Some of us don't want to think about it. The American Psychological Association talks about eco-anxiety. Now, eco-anxiety is not a formal diagnosis, but it is increasingly common today. And the Psychological Association described it as the dread and helplessness that come with watching the slow and seemingly irrevocable impacts of climate change unfold, and worrying about the future for oneself, children, and later generations. That's the definition of eco-anxiety. And I suspect that a lot of our listeners can relate to this. I certainly can. I certainly experience this sometimes. But I think it's very important for us to know that there is actually a remedy for eco-anxiety, and that is to take meaningful action. The surveys find that more than half of our kids sometimes or often feel helpless and anxious in the face of our deteriorating environment. But among children whose families are taking some kind of action, their feelings of helplessness and anxiety are far less frequent and far milder, and their feelings of hope and faith and confidence are much higher. So, Michael, so far, does that make sense to you?
Oh, does it make sense? It's resonating on a very deep level. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, recently, a woman named Helen Harwad and a team of scientists that she led from a number of leading U.S. universities calculated what would happen if every American made a single dietary change, substituting beans for beef. That was their theory or their question, what would happen? And they found that if everyone did that, the U.S. could come very close to meeting its 2020 greenhouse gas emission goals, even if nothing about our energy infrastructure or transportation system changed, and even if people kept eating chicken and pork and eggs and cheese. This one dietary change, substituting beans for beef, could achieve nearly 75% of the reductions needed to meet that target, even with an administration that isn't doing anything to help. Now, these researchers also found that a beans for beef swap would mean much less deforestation, much less land degradation, because far fewer plant crops would be run through the digestive tracts of cattle. If Americans traded their beef for beans, the researchers concluded that would free up almost half of all the cropland in the country. So, Michael, from this data, it's clear that switching to beans from beef to beans would be a hugely beneficial shift for the environment and the climate. I remember you once describing yourself as a physician whose waiting room had expanded to include the whole planet. How do you feel about this admittedly hypothetical beans for beef swap? And as a physician, how would it affect human health?
Oh, my brother John, what a question. And coming from your lips, it has a profound resonance with me because, as you well know more than anyone, when I read your book back in 1987, I read it in 2 nights, boy, and Diet for a New America, and it moved me so profoundly. Especially your chapter on what our animal flesh production was doing to the earth, and the forests are disappearing, and the soils are eroding, and the water is disappearing, and the water is getting polluted, the rainforests are disappearing. And as one who loves this earth, I'm a passionate environmentalist. That spoke to me as much as your chapters on health and the animals. And that's what made me pick up the phone and call you all those decades ago. Now, what can we do? Again, most of the media and the politicians are focused on, well, let's get solar panels on everybody's houses and electric cars. That's what we need to do. But as you and I, and hopefully most of your listeners know, that is not the place to put our energy. Yes, that's all important, better transportation. But the real issue is our diet. Every year on planet Earth, we raise and slaughter 70 billion living animals, and every one of those animals is breathing out carbon dioxide. They're belching out methane. They're eating grains that have been grown with ammonia fertilizers that put nitrous oxide into the air. It's our industrial scale of flesh production and consumption that's driving the greenhouse gas production and the environmental destruction, the rainforest disappearing and the soils and the water. It's our flesh consumption. But as distressing it is, it's ultimately hopeful, and that gets us around to the beans for beef. Look at that, just the beans for beef, because the beef is pretty much the most environmentally destructive of all the flesh foods. Yes, that's absolutely brilliant. What would happen? It would revolutionize medicine. The heart attacks and strokes would plummet. The autoimmune diseases would plummet. There would be money to send kids to college, to put internets in everybody's house, to clean up the water. We would become a prosperous, healthy society. And I urge people to take that bright little phrase, beans for beef, very seriously. For all that it implies, it does hold the key to our survival and to the kids coming after us. One way to show that we're serious about giving them a viable world is to trade the beef for the beans. Absolutely.
What you're saying highlights for me that the food choices that are best for our bodies, that give us the strongest immune systems and the least susceptibility to infectious disease, that give us the strongest respiratory systems, the strongest cardiovascular systems, that really provide for a vibrant and healthy life throughout the course of our lifetime. The same food choices that do so much to support that, to enable that, to give us that chance, also are the ones that lower our carbon footprint, that preserve the rainforests, that don't contribute to soil erosion and water pollution and so many of the environmental ills that are unfortunately extant today and developing and growing increasingly.
What a flashing light of truth, man. Do we need any more validation than that? It works for everything. And the world would heal. The forest would come back. The soils would stabilize. The waters would return. It would heal the earth as well as our bodies. You're absolutely right.
And the same direction, shifting from beef to beans as an example, but also eating less meat, eating less animal products, and substituting whole plant foods, not processed ones, not vegan junk foods, but wholesome, natural, plant-strong diets will give us a quality of life, a quality of mind and body, of experience of ourselves that's inspiring. And while we're doing that, we're contributing to the healing of the planet, and we're causing far fewer animals to suffer the misery of modern industrial meat production, which is really gruesome and brutal if you see it. There's so much to be gained by this, so very, very much. And yet the medical profession today doesn't seem all that aware. I mean, the average physician graduates medical school in the United States today, having received about 19 hours of nutritional education. Only a quarter of all the medical schools require even a single course in nutrition. And of the limited nutritional education that is offered, most focuses on the specific problems that can arise from a deficiency of isolated nutrients. There's really no attention given to helping patients prevent disease or optimize health by eating the healthy food that would give them such a higher quality of life and help to heal our planet at the same time. Michael, as Ocean and I and everyone who knows you understands, you've dedicated your life's work as a physician to healing the ill and the injured, and to relieving suffering wherever you may find it, and preventing misfortune wherever you can. Now you've launched an education and action campaign, Moving Medicine Forward, to promote the power of plant-based nutrition being taught in medical schools across North America. Ocean and I could not be more supportive and with you and aligned with you in this effort. Can you tell us about what you're doing?
Oh, with pleasure. Thank you, John, for asking, because it really is the culmination of my life's work. I feel that my entire medical career, for all the hours and as a student and all the nights in the emergency rooms and all the years in the clinics, has been pointed me, have toned me and honed me to take on this mission. It's become a running joke how little doctors know about nutrition, and to have patients in my colleague's office who clearly have nutritional based diseases. I mentioned the classic Western fast food diet full of animal products and hydrogenated oils and refined sugars. It's a toxic brew, and you run it through your tissues year after year after year. You wind up sitting in the waiting room of the endocrinologist or the cardiologist or the internist or the nephrologist, overweight, obese, clogged up arteries, high cholesterol, and joints hurt, skin broken out, got no energy, bowels aren't working. And the doctor comes out, you get ushered in, and they'll take your vital signs and say, gee, cholesterol a little high, well, you better take these statins. And pressure a little high, better take the beta blocker. Your bowels are working well. Take this medicine. It'll make your bowels a little less irritable. And nobody's getting to the root of the problem. Doctor, why is that patient sitting in front of you, obese, diabetic, hypertensive, clogged up? Clue is what they're eating. And at this point, this can no longer stand. This is dishonest medicine. It is unethical medicine. And I use these are loaded terms, but I use them intentionally. In my talks to the medical students, I put up a slide with a quote from the American Medical Association's Statement of Ethics. And it says, physicians shall keep abreast of the latest advances in medical science and make this information available to their patients. We are mandated to share this information with the patient. It's more than just understanding the disease process. A plant-based diet offers cure. Instead of putting in another stent in the patient's arteries, again, if they need a stent in their coronary arteries, their entire arterial tree is clogged up. And stenting one little narrow part in one little coronary artery does nothing for the plaque that's in the carotid arteries going up to their brain, to the plaque in the renal arteries, to their kidneys, down the iliac arteries, down their legs. You're not getting to the root of the problem. Yet a whole food plant-based diet, as Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Ornish have shown us, will melt these plaques away all over the body. How dare we withhold this information from our patients? What right do we have not to know about this and share this with our patients? Now, I give lectures. I've been going around to medical schools and giving lectures. I put up a slide that has all these chronic diseases, diabetes, hypertension, inflammatory arthritis, colitis. I say, listen, I didn't go into medicine to manage chronic disease. I went in to cure patients, and every one of these diseases are curable. Every one of us docs who practices lifestyle medicine has a folder full of patients who used to have diabetes, who used to have lupus, who used to have rheumatoid arthritis, who used to have obesity. All these diseases go away. And I look at the young students and I say, it comes down to this. You want to cure your patients or don't you? You want to really help. You want to cure these patients or do you not? If you otherwise you are part of their problem. If they come in with all these diseases and you just renew their statin prescription and tell them you ought to lose a little weight and up their beta blocker dosage without asking about what they're eating, you're not practicing complete medicine, to say the least. And then when they have their stroke, the question is whether you have any responsibility in this. So we have started what's called Moving Medicine Forward. In every first year, second, third year medical school class, there's now 20, 30, 40 of the young medical students who've seen movies like Forks Over Knives. They've seen What the Health. They've seen Cowspiracy. They've seen Diet Food in America. And the light's on. They get it. Oh, it's the food. And they form a nutrition interest group, and they invite Dr. Clapper in. They arrange the lecture hall. They put up the flyers around the school. They send out the notices. They arrange the samosas from the local Indian restaurant. And I come in and talk to the physicians, the medical students, the dietitians, the nursing students. And I tell them, listen, a new era of medicine is dawning. These are you can now cure these patients, but you got to get real with what they're eating. And when they say, well, people never change, they do change. And it's not up to the physician to decide who's going to change and who not, who isn't. That's not your business, doctor. You at least owe them this information. You at least owe them a one-page handout as they're walking out the door. You know, if you want to get rid of your diabetes, you can do it with a plant-based diet. You want to get rid of your high blood pressure, you can do it with a plant-based diet. You want to get rid of that lupus, you can do it. And we at least owe them that information. And my message to the young students is, you're not crazy. Is before you order another $1,000 scan or another $500 panel blood test, stop. Ask your patients what they ate yesterday. And if the litany comes out full of buffalo wings and burgers and pepperoni pizzas, that's all you need to know. Start right there. Get them on a whole food plant-based diet, and most of these diseases go away. You will see this remarkable transformation right before your eyes that you and your patients can accomplish. So you owe your patients this information. You owe them this power. And to withhold it is no longer acceptable. In a way, I shouldn't have to be doing this. It should have been taught all along. And by the time I hang up my stethoscope, if they're teaching plant-based nutrition in every medical school, I'll say, mission accomplished. That's what I want to do. But for right now, I'm focusing these next 2 years, probably is going to go to 3 years, focusing all my energy on our Moving Medicine Forward initiative. If people would like to help me, because this takes money and resources for all the travel and the creating online courses and applied plant-based nutrition, etc., I'll invite listeners go to my website, drklapper.com. It's all spelled out, DOCTORKLAPER.com. And look up top, click on Moving Medicine Forward. Click on it, and you'll see all the information about the program. And not only will you see where you can make a donation, which we would greatly appreciate, but also there's a little gray box saying if you know a medical student at a school who would be open to this, or you know a faculty member on the staff of the med schools, click here, give us their name and numbers. We'll contact them and ask if they would like Dr. Klapper to come to their school and give a nutrition lecture. I'm working as hard as I can to usher that new era in, and I thank you for the help in doing it.
Well, thank you, Michael, for doing it. And you are educating physicians. You're giving them the lecture that you probably would have liked to have received.
To give you the lecture I wish someone had given me 50 years ago. 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I said it would have changed the course of my medical career, would have changed every diagnosis I made, changed every treatment plan I constructed. Absolutely. This is what I wish someone had told me. So here it is. I'm telling you, that's exactly the line I use. You're very astute.
Well, that's beautiful. And you're talking to physicians, your colleagues, and there's a corresponding change that needs to happen in the population, among the patients, amongst the people, because the thought, the thinking, the belief that there's a pill for every ill. I can do whatever, put whatever in my body, just cope with life, and then if I get ill, the doctors will be there to fix it. There will be a pill, there will be a surgery, there will be a treatment, and it puts the doctor on a pedestal. And the doctor will have the answer. And the change, I think, is away from this pill for every ill thinking. And I think that doctors will get off their pedestals when we get off our knees, when we take charge of our lives, when we take responsibility for what we're eating and how we're living and the choices we're making and the foods that we want to take into our bodies and to become us. And when we make those choices consciously and live with intention, live with purpose, live with truth, the many blessings that unfold, the degree of improvement in the quality of our lives, and the degree of increase in our ability to be of service to others, to give from a cup that is full rather than from a cup that is empty, to love the people we love with our whole hearts, is so beautiful to me. And Michael, on behalf of Ocean and myself and everyone involved in the food revolution, I thank you. You are such an ardent and compassionate advocate for a path that can bring so much that is good and beautiful and loving into people's lives. And on behalf of myself and Ocean and everyone involved in the food revolution, I want to thank you for your long-standing commitment to true healing, for your deep compassion, your brilliant mind, your undaunted spirit, and of course, for being with us today.
Oh, well, what a lovely sentiment. Thank you, John, for that. And I would urge all your listeners, before the stroke happens, or before the cancer diagnosis, before these bad things happen, please give your body what it's looking for: a whole food, plant-based diet, take it for a walk every day, get enough sleep, drink some water every day. Most importantly, get love in your life and laughter in your life and meaningful work in your life. We're not here to suffer. We're here to love and to do good works and to be happy in our healthy hearts. And it all starts with eating benign, health-enhancing food that makes everyone healthier, including the animals and the planet. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I thank both of you for all the work you've done over the years, and look forward to keep making this a better world with all our works together. So thank you all very much for this.
Absolutely. What a privilege that we get to do this together. We've been talking here with Dr. Michael Klaper, co founder of Moving Medicine Forward, and an author, speaker, healer, and a happy physician who gets to actually help his patients get well. You can find out about his work and contact him at drklaper.com. Again, that's DOCTORKLAPER.com. Michael, I want to thank you for your brilliant insights and your huge heart. We're so grateful for your leadership, for your wisdom, and for your partnership in the food revolution.
Definitely mutual, Ocean. It's an honor to know you on every level. So thank you, Ocean.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Dr. Michael Klaper and to my dad for that rousing, moving, galvanizing presentation. To express your opinions on what you've been hearing and to find out what other people are saying, please do post and engage in the comments section on our broadcasts page. Make sure to refresh the comments using the Get the Latest Comments button so you can see the most recent ones that have been submitted. You can post what you've gotten out of today's broadcasts, what you're learning, what you're hoping to get from this summit. Share where you are in your food revolution journey. A few folks have commented about an issue in which you might hear some audio repeating itself from time to time in the YouTube live stream. We are working to resolve these issues, and I want to reassure you these repeats will not be present on the replays available later on today or in the recordings that come with the empowerment package. Kelly Wilcoxon said, what about reports that most soy available now is GMO? Well, Kelly, that is a real concern. Over 90% of the soy grown in the United States is genetically engineered, and generally it's been engineered to withstand repeated spraying with Monsanto, now Bayer's Roundup, which has the primary active ingredient of glyphosate. This is an herbicide. It's a weed killer. And glyphosate is an endocrine disruptor. It's a probable carcinogen, and it's also been patented as an antibiotic, so it can kill bacteria, including in your gut. It's not something you want on your food. So if you, like I, are concerned about GMOs, you may want to avoid non-organic soy, corn, canola, sugar beets, and also cottonseed oil, which is probably not something you want to be consuming anyway. But these are the main crops that are genetically engineered today. We're going to hear a lot more about GMOs and food safety on Tuesday on day 4 with Vani Hari, Andrew Kimbrell, and Jeffrey Smith. We heard from Alexa Moody, who said, going whole foods has helped me rid type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure and acid reflux and sleep apnea. I've removed all the medications within months of changing my diet. And I released 188 pounds. I am sold and will never go back. Alexa, that's extraordinary. Congratulations. We are celebrating you and so happy for the improvements you have been experiencing. And we want to support you in carrying it forward and taking it forward now and for the rest of your life. And I am so glad you're with us. Kate Proctor Brooks said, on apples, I'm sure that your segment on toxins will tell us to never eat an apple peel unless it's organic. If this is true, then the assertion in the Dr. Clapper segment that eating whole fruit in the U.S. these days is an unmitigated good thing is conflicted advice. Thoughts? Well, Kate, thanks for raising that. And I want to make something very clear here. There are a lot of neurotoxic pesticides that are being sprayed on our food today. This is a concern. An environmental working group publishes a report every year on the most pesticide-contaminated foods, fruits and vegetables specifically. They call it the Dirty Dozen. They also talk about what they call the Clean 15, which are the least contaminated ones. And it is important to be aware of that. And if you can afford to go organic, especially with the Dirty Dozen, that is a great idea. But let me be clear about something with you here. There have been about over 10,000 studies published in peer-reviewed medical journals, which tell us in no uncertain terms that eating more whole foods, more plants, more fruits and vegetables is good for our health. And most of the people in those studies, when they were eating fruits and vegetables, were not eating organic ones. They were eating conventionally grown ones. So what I think we can say at this point is that if you can't afford to go organic, you should still be eating your fruits and vegetables. If you're ever choosing between an organic donut and non-organic kale, go for the kale. The data is on your side with this. And that said, if you can afford to go organic, especially with the Dirty Dozen, that's a great idea. And apples are on the list, so are most of the berries. And generally, just to give you a rule of thumb here, the crops that are sprayed directly, that you eat the outside of it, tend to be more likely to have pesticide contamination, whereas things like avocados, melons, things where you peel the outside or don't eat the outside, there's maybe some kind of a shell, those tend to have less contamination to the inside of the food that you eat. I guess it kind of makes sense, right? Kathy Reinhardt said, John and Ocean, thank you for making this program free for us who cannot afford it. Ever since I started watching these, I've been improving my food choices. I have more energy, better yearly physical test results, and I'm helping the planet at the same time. Wonderful, Kathy. We are so glad you're here, so glad to share it all with you, and so happy for your success on this food revolution journey. And I have a feeling you're just getting started. Justin Green said, I'm taking baby steps to switch to a plant-based diet, mostly vegetarian at this point, but I'm interested in growing my own food on a budget. Any advice? Where to start? Well, Justin, I do actually have a suggestion. My friend Stacy Murphy is an extraordinary teacher in the art and science of growing food in your backyard or wherever you may live. And she's created a little mini course. It's called How to Grow $400 Worth of Vegetables and Herbs in 40 Days. And actually, this course, normally she sells it for $197, but she offered to give it away for free as a bonus whenever you get an empowerment package. And that's actually just one of 29 bonuses from our friends and partners that comes with the empowerment package. So if you go ahead and grab an empowerment package, you will have Stacy's course along with all the others. And it's a great resource. Renee Garivet said, this is my first summit and I'm already learning so much. Just in this last year, my husband and I started to avoid processed foods and incorporate more vegetables, fruits, and real food. He's already lost 35 pounds, and I've lost 16 pounds just by making those small changes. We want to teach our kids how to eat healthy so they can enjoy a disease-free life. And this summit is giving me so much information that I can pass on to them and the rest of my family. Thank you so much for this life-changing information. Well, Renee, thank you for being with us. We are so glad you're here, and we want to support you in taking this forward with your family. So we're going to gift you with an empowerment package. Congratulations. Our team will follow up with you. I know you'll put it to good use for you and for your husband and for your kids. Bless you, bless you, bless you on your journey. Judith Hell said, can you talk about lectins? Dr. Gundry insists that those are way more damaging than most people understand and are certainly present in beans and a lot of the foods that you're talking about. Well, Judith, thank you for raising this because a lot of people are talking about Dr. Gundry's books and ads and programs and infomercials. And, lectins are a kind of protein that's found in many plant foods and especially in legumes. And Dr. Gundry is telling us that they are the #1 biggest danger in the American diet. He's warning against grains of all kinds, beans and other legumes, nuts, and even certain fruits and vegetables, especially eggplant, tomatoes, potatoes, and peppers. Now, we have a lot of different fads and theories and ideas out there, and honestly, I think sometimes they really kind of pollute the space. They pollute the air, and they make it confusing for people to figure out what's really going on. And this is an example of that. I'm sorry, folks, but I think this stuff is kind of crazy. We have an abundance of medical studies that link whole grains, legumes, nuts, and yes, tomatoes with positive health outcomes, with lower rates of cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, with lower rates of type 2 diabetes and obesity, with greater life expectancy. We are faced right now with epidemic rates of disease that many experts believe are clearly linked to an abundance of low nutrient, low fiber, sugar enhanced, highly processed, and meat centered foods. And here we have Dr. Gundry declaring war on legumes, grains, and many fruits and vegetables. I'm sorry, I'm not on board. I'm not a fan. And I don't think we should be listening to somebody who is telling us to avoid the very foods that countless epidemiological studies are telling us are good for us. So to be fair, there are some lectins in certain raw legumes that can be toxic. And I do advise make sure to cook your legumes really well, and ideally they should be pressure cooked. But other than that, I don't think Dr. Gundry, is really pointing us in the right direction here. We heard from Alex Wibley, who said, I did a test on myself. I had my blood work done, and then I went plant-based for 3 months, and I had it done again. It totally changed my profile. My cholesterol was down, triglycerides down, weight down, etc. My doctor said he had never seen such a drastic change in such a short time. I was blown away, and I've gone on to tell many. Thank you for this summit. Well, Alex, awesome. That is a very cool story. Thank you for telling us. Thank you for sharing it. And quite frankly, as surprised as your doctor was, he probably shouldn't have been, because this kind of stuff is fairly consistent. We hear it all the time. We heard from Cheryl Burdett, who said, if a person is sitting on the fence, concerned whether or not Whole Foods plant-based eating would be good for them, listening to these presentations should definitely help them come to the other side. I get so much motivation and encouragement from these speakers. Well, yes, Cheryl, I hope that is true. And I want to invite you and everybody else listening right now. This summit is just getting started, and now is the perfect time. If you've been touched or inspired by something you're hearing, if you have somebody in your life that you think could benefit from this experience, then I want to make a request of you. I want to ask you to reach out to them. Give them the link to foodrevolutionsummit.org. Tell them to go ahead and sign up and participate and join in, because their life might never be the same. There is no greater gift you could give somebody than the gift of lasting health and wellness, and that's what this could be for them. We heard from Rita Epstein, who said, in June 2017, I committed to a plant-based lifestyle, eliminating processed foods, sugar, gluten, dairy, soy, and bringing only organic foods home. I have lost 100 pounds, eliminated my fibromyalgia symptoms and general inflammatory issues. My cardiac issues, intestinal problems, and energy all improved. I struggle with the input from other people. When I'm eating out or even in the work environment, I feel belittled, questioned, and made to feel uncomfortable. It continues to be a struggle to find organic meals in restaurants, and lately cravings that revolve around emotional issues are returning as well. It's getting harder to stay focused. I'm looking for consistent input and support. Well, Rita, thank you for sharing the challenges you're facing and also the success you've had. And I want you to know you are not alone. We've got your back. We are with you. We are cheering you on. We are celebrating you, and we are supporting you. And the truth is that for all of us, it can be difficult to sustain these healthy choices for the long term when we live as we do in a toxic food culture. So you are in the right place for getting reinvigorated and re-inspired. And one of the things we've seen in our work is that for a lot of folks, the biggest challenge isn't just knowing what to do, but it's also doing what we know. And that is why Food Revolution Network created a membership community. We call it Whole Life Club, or Welcoming Healthy Organic Lifestyle Empowerment. And we created it to help you sustain and optimize your food revolution journey for the long haul. It gives you recipes, wisdom, and community, and a steady supply of support. So Rita, I've got good news. We're going to gift you with a free membership in Whole Life Club. Congratulations, and our team will follow up with you about that. and we look forward to welcoming you into the community. For anybody else who's listening right now who wants to join in Whole Life Club, you can find a link to it at foodrevolutionsummit.org/whole. Again, that's foodrevolutionsummit.org/whole. We heard from Kathy Hogan, who said, excited to be participating. Thank you for the summit. I adopted a plant-based diet 6 months ago, and I'm enjoying the health benefits. Weight loss, lower cholesterol, and more energy. Wonderful, Kathy. I am so happy to hear that. We're so glad you're with us. And we're hearing so many stories like this. I can't share them all, but you can read them in the comments. And I am just so heartened and so happy and so elated that you are all with us right now in this journey. And we are now approaching the end of day 1 in the Food Revolution Summit. I want to invite you to express your opinions on the summit so far and find out what other people are saying by posting and engaging in the comments section on our broadcasts page. Make sure you refresh the comments using that button you'll see there so you can see the latest ones. And you can also join in the conversation on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Food Revolution Network. Again, that's facebook.com/Food Revolution Network. Please come on back and join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, 3 p.m. GMT for Science, amazing food and health tips that really work. We will have some extraordinary presentations from Doctors Justin and Erica Sonnenberg on easy steps for keeping you and your gut happy, Dr. Neil Barnard on the food and hormone connection you need to know, and Dr. Joel Furman on what nutritional excellence can do for you. Tomorrow's presentations are going to rock your world. So please come back and join us. And in the meanwhile, post and engage in the comments section. You can share in the replays at foodrevolutionsummit.org/replays. You can check out the empowerment package so you can own the entire summit for life with the MP3s, the transcripts, the action checklists, and all the bonuses. And you can enjoy our recipe of the day posted on the broadcast page, which is peanut noodle salad. We wish you a wonderful, thriving day. This is Ocean Robbins, signing off from day 1 in the 2019 Food Revolution Summit. At Food Revolution Network, our mission is healthy, ethical, and sustainable food for everyone who eats. We want kids to learn about healthy food in school. We want doctors to learn how nutrition impacts health in medical school. We want the routine use of antibiotics banned from factory farms. We want a world where everyone, regardless of their ethnic or economic background, has knowledge of and access to healthy food for their family. We want a world in which heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and diabetes are rare, and in which vibrant health is the status quo. We're spreading the word and standing for change. And with every empowerment package purchased, we make a donation to Trees for the Future, enabling them to plant an organic fruit or nut tree in a low-income community. Join this movement and support this mission.